Why did I come to Ghana? To this strange town I know I was never in before.
The whole town said Tilda committed suicide, but the whole town knew she was murdered. Was he the man who killed her?
Yes, y'all, it's going down right now. Episode 243 of the Triple Shots of Moods and Horror podcast is coming at you live and direct with the homie JP, also known as the Mexicant. And of course, we got Mr. Saucedo up in the house again, also known as Freeman Part 2. And I be your host, the MOOD to the Z, Moodz. Yeah. What's going on, guys? Yeah.
What up? Italian Horror Month.
Super
Italian Horror Month, Week 1, Luigi Bazzoni. Yeah. So what year is this? Is this the 9th year that we've been doing this?
Yeah.
Nine Italian years, yeah. So, and this is a pretty interesting lineup we got for this year's month. It's all first-time directors, and we found some pretty good ones. I think it's a pretty good lineup this year. Most of the films I've seen before, a couple I haven't, but yeah, really looking forward to this. So yeah, again, Week 1, Luigi Bazzoni. We got The Possessed from 1965, The Fifth Chord from 1971, and of course, Footprints on the Moon from 1975. Yeah, Italian Horror Month. Have you guys been getting down on some other Italian films so far?
I got a lineup planned for sure.
Yeah,
I haven't, but I plan to. I just was kind of busy at the start of this week. But yeah, I got a handful of Italian titles that I've never seen on Blu-ray and stuff like that. So I'll probably just start watching some of those.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that I was kind of going through the shelves and I was like, what haven't I watched yet? And I realized there's a couple box sets I haven't really dipped into. There was that one from Severin, like the macabre one. Some of the older films, like some of the Giallo sets that Vinegar Syndrome had done. There's a few films in there I hadn't seen. So I think I might just start to pick away at the ones I haven't seen before, maybe this year. I'll throw in some classics and shit like that too, but I think I'm going to start to, get some of those off the watch list done. So
I think I'm gonna jump right into my favorites, and then I'll just see how I feel. I think I'm just gonna watch just other Italian movies of the era too. I usually rewatch the Dollars trilogy every year, so I'll probably get that in somewhere. I haven't seen Django in about a year or two, so I want to watch that again. That was great.
I usually end up doing that too. I end up watching, I treat Italian Horror Month like just Italian Cinema Month, and I end up watching.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I always end up watching spaghetti westerns because you guys know me. I'm a huge Western fan, and I love me some spaghetti westerns, of course. And then I end up watching Fernando Di Leo, crime films and shit like that. And yeah, I like a lot of the rare releases because they mix it up. They release a lot of just different types of films. There's horror films. There's the Pugliese films and the crime films and shit like that. So I like to mix it up. But yeah, there's still a few in the collection I haven't got around to. So I did that last year too. I started out with some classics and I just kind of mixed bagged it all the way through the month and stuff like that. So I'll probably end up doing that again. I watched, I think it was from that macabre set, The Monster of the Opera. I hadn't seen it before, from 1964. It was actually not very good. I was pretty disappointed with this. Just kind of a take on Dracula, but it was really boring. I was really, really upset with it, man. I was like, oh, it's just, it had cinematography was really good. And it wasn't a poorly made film or nothing. It was just standard and just kind of boring, but Italian take on Dracula was yeah, whatever. So 0 for 1 in that box set right now. So, but I'm sure it'll get better. Hopefully.
Yeah. Something I kind of noticed, once I started getting into spaghetti westerns is that they really are like good companion pieces to Giallo.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
They hit a lot of the same strides, and like for me, like I just like really love the music and the atmosphere of Italian films of this era, and like that stuff is splattered all over spaghetti westerns. It's
right.
It's a lot more similar than you'd expect.
I mean, I could totally do I could watch The Fifth Chord and then pop in Django, do the double Franco Nero double feature kind of thing. Like Nero did a lot of fucking westerns and shit, though. A lot of spaghetti western. He did a lot of different types of films all over the place, but yeah, I know what you're saying though. But the thing I like about spaghetti westerns is that, I mean, the scores are always so fucking good in those movies. The scores are just amazing, but they're always so damn violent.
Yeah, exactly. And they're so much more bloody than like the American counterparts.
Yeah.
And there's almost like all these stories in the classic American ones where there's like the good versus bad, and you learn a lesson like by the end of it, and they don't give a fuck.
It's like a He-Man episode where there's like the moral of the story at the end.
Yeah, in like movies like I don't know, like The Great Silence and like Death Rides a Horse, like they don't give a fuck.
No, dude, and those are two of my favorites, man. Like those are great fucking films right there.
Yeah, those are. Oh, I definitely want to watch Death Rides a Horse. I haven't watched that in a couple of years. I remember being like super impressed by it.
Honestly, everything with Kinski in it, though, man, the dude just has the face of evil, right? It's just amazing.
He's like a perfect villain.
It's funny too that we bring him up actually because he appears in Footprints on the Moon, and he's in the role that you would just expect him to be in, right?
Right? Did you guys watch that in Italian, or did you watch it dubbed?
I watched all these in like the English version. Well, The Possessed was actually shot in English. I mean, all these movies were shot silent, but they were actually English speaking. Yeah, same with The Fifth Chord too.
Oh, okay. Well, I know I have the disc on The Fifth Chord, and I
watched the Italian version of Footprints on the Moon, but it was in English.
Yeah, I think that's what I did too. When it was in English, I thought I just did it automatically. But whatever, like the dub on Klaus Kinski made me laugh so hard.
Oh, dude,
it was just not so even funny. Close to what he said.
Dude, I literally have it in my notes, and it has me laughing. I said the dub on Klaus Kinski does not work. It's just not even close to what his real voice. There's a lot of Italian films that Kinski did where he never dubbed his own voice. Like he's dubbed all the time. It seems like it's. I don't know if it was him or the studios, because like the stories of working with Klaus Kinski.
Hard to work with. Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Like, by the time it was going into post to do the voiceovers and stuff, they're like, fuck Kinski, man. He's so hard to work with. We'll just fucking dub his voice. Because I can even see Kinski going, fuck that. I'm not going to dub my own voice.
Yeah,
like,
I guess else to do it.
Like Christopher Lee, like all the foreign films that he did, like all the Euro shit that he did, he always came back and usually dubbed it. I think except for like one or two films that he never did. And that's really strange to hear someone else's voice when you're watching Christopher Lee. That's fucking bizarre, dude. Because there's one film I just watched, and I actually looked in the credits and actually said that he couldn't go back to do the post on it or something like that because he was committed to doing another film, and it was a scheduling conflict or something. So he just said fuck it and didn't do it. And it was one of the Christopher Lee box sets, and I was like, oh my god, it's so fucking weird to hear someone else's voice like coming out of like when you're watching that face. Oh, it was so off-putting to me. I couldn't stop like focusing on it.
Yeah,
like ruin the movie for me.
The Klaus part.
Ruin the. Well, at least with Klaus Kinski and Footprints on the Moon, like it's on a huge role, so it's not that distracting. But it made me laugh out loud because this was one of the movies I'd never seen before.
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
So I was like, oh my god, dude! I didn't even know Kinski was in it until I was like went to the IMDb page. And I'm like, Kinski's in this movie. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he pops up, and I'm like, oh, that's a weird role. Fuck. So it's just totally tripped me right out, but. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Yeah, so that's really the only movie that I've watched this month besides the three for this this episode. Yeah. Monster the Opera. Although I went to the cinema and watched so I gotta tell a story, man.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I went and seen Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yep.
And I don't know anything about Five Nights at Freddy. Like I'm not like a fan of the franchise or the books or whatever it's based on. I don't even know. All I know is just like a killer fucking animatronic, whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, so I walk into the theater and there was like a couple people sitting there, and this guy turns around and he's like, hey, how long have you been a big fan, or how long have you been a fan of this franchise? And I'm like, what? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, already this is like getting weird, right? I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And I'm like, not really. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. I'm just here because it's, it's a horror film. And he's like, oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. And then all these people start rolling in, and it's like, oh man, for lack of a better term, it was some of the most interesting characters. I will just put it bluntly. Like,
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
it was a lot of weird people.
Yeah.
Right? Like the crowd was very
okay. They were weird.
Strange. It was very strange. Like it was just people that were so into fucking Five Nights at Freddy's shit. Like they know everything, right? And people are like, all giddy, and it's like this age group of like late teens, early 20s. Cause like, I guess there's been talks making this movie since like 2015. And I actually heard one of the kids after, like he was little after the movie ended. He's freaking out. He's screaming and yelling. He's like, oh my God, I've been waiting 8 years. I've been waiting half my life to see this movie. And like, it was like that type of shit. Right.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, there's a moment in the film, and at the end of this movie, I'm not going to give it away. But anyways, Freddy says a line, and the crowd erupts, standing ovation.
Did you just feel like a complete fish out of water?
And I'm sitting here and I'm looking around going, what the fuck is happening right now? I'm like, because I didn't know that there was a famous line. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, now I'm feeling really awkward because like I'm like the only person sitting down trying to watch the movie. The people are applauding and freak high-fiving and hugging and screaming and yelling. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
It's like so when your friend takes you to a band that you've never seen or know anything about, and like everybody's like all into it, and you're just like there.
Yeah, dude, it was pretty much like that, right? And then
that's awkward.
So this line happens, and the place erupts, and then of course the movie ends, and then it just standing ovation. The lights come on, and people are yelling. It's high five. It was just, I was like, what am I witnessing right now? This is the weirdest.
That's the next.
I've never been in a cinema. I've never been in a cinema when something like that has happened before, ever. Like, and I've seen a lot of movies in the cinema. That was a weird experience, man. I was just like, what the fuck? And then to my amazement, like 95% of the people left before like the mid scene or the mid credit scene. And then there was like something after, whatever. Like most people miss that shit. I'm like, really? Like, you didn't stick around for that shit? It was just so strange. And I
watched it at home. Oh no, we did watch it because I fast forwarded the credits to see if there was one.
Yeah.
We watched it at home.
Right. What'd you think of it?
I mean, like it wasn't for me. Like I wasn't the target audience. I mean, it was what it was. Like I know it was supposed to be 3 hours, and it was still like long, but like it does seem like it's really chopped up, and there's just like a lot of half-baked stuff that was probably supposed to be more fleshed out. And
yeah, I was a little
cut the time down. It was just like you just had a long movie that like was a mess.
Okay, so I didn't know it was supposed to be 3 hours. I kind of got the impression that it did feel a little bit like some of the editing was a little bit off and stuff. So that actually makes a little bit more sense now.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like a David Fincher movie, like in one half, and the other half was like a Blumhouse movie.
Yeah, like it was. Okay, the thing that surprised me about the narrative was how odd it was. It was a weird narrative, and
that's what I mean. Like they gave you like a glimpse and like obviously gave you the background on like the history of like Freddy's or whatever, but you never really felt like you understood what was going on, and not because it was like mysterious.
Is that the actual real story of all the characters of Five Nights at Freddy's? Like, is that
I believe
actually...
so.
So
my girlfriend knew more about it, like, because she's late 20s, so she knew a little bit more about it. I don't know if like she really actually grew up with it, but she knew enough about it, so I kind of like fill in the blanks. So like I know a line you're talking about. And I guess that's like the ending. I guess it's like a line in the video game, but I suppose it's way better in the video game or something. And I guess they took a lot out of the video game that like was like good stuff.
So yeah, I was driving home and I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, man, was this the actual narrative of like, because I'm like, this is some pretty dark ass shit right here. Like this was aimed for kids and stuff. And I'm like, this is how the characters come to life. I'm like, what the fuck? Like this was for kids?
I wanted to see it. Like I wish like they would have shown it what they talked about, like with the things coming to life.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with the kills and stuff. There was one decent one, but most of the, like the body count's pretty low in it. And it wasn't
that violent. That's something
it wasn't. And a couple of the kills weren't even like on screen, and they were just kind of there. And I was like, wow, like I was very, very disappointed with that aspect of the film. But I was just kind of taken back at how strange the narrative was. And like, I kept thinking, I'm like, this was aimed at kids. I'm like, that's just so fucking bizarre. But then the movie comes out and it's like 18A. I'm like, what the hell? And it wasn't even that violent. Like it wasn't even that crazy.
Yeah, it really.
To be honest, I mean, the Banana Splits movie is way more violent and fucking better.
That movie was. I guess I think that movie like,
and that's like an interpretation of like Banana Splits, because if you've ever seen Banana Splits before, it's like a straight up kids TV show in the early 70s. Like it's just a straight up kids thing, and that they turned into an adult fucking slasher film, right? Like
This
it's
must be
just so
this
bizarre.
director's thing.
Yeah,
It's a woman, right?
Is that what
The
it really?
director? I think it's a woman. It's like Agatha or like Agnes something.
Oh shit.
I think it's a Russian girl.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I don't know anything about that series or franchise or whatever. I remember my boss's son was into it back when, I guess it, years ago at this point, but I didn't really know what the hell it was. And I still don't really. Is it like a
So did it start out as a video
TV
game
show or something?
It's a video game, and I guess it's kind of like, imagine like Chuck E. Cheese's with like a murder background, like a murder history, like a shutdown Chuck E. Cheese
Right.
where things come to life.
It reminded me of Willy's Wonderland, or was that what it's called?
Yeah, it's very similar in a sense. Like, I mean, like I said, there's 3 movies that have kind of been very similar, like Banana Splits and Five Nights at Freddy's and
Yeah,
Willy's
I did get
Wonderland.
that
They're all
director
kind of similar.
confused, by the way. This director was a woman. It's the woman that did The Wind from 2018, like that Western.
Yeah. That movie was super atmospheric.
Yeah,
Pretty
so same director of that film.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad movie, but
It was okay. Like, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's like I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm just gonna go recommend to someone either.
Yeah, I did like Banana Splits, even though it's kind of cheap filling, but
yeah, I just can't believe that they turned like a straight up kids television show into like a fucking slasher film like that.
well, it's like kind of the trend now, right? With Winnie the Pooh and
I haven't seen
The
that, but
Grinch.
I heard it was like such a cash in.
I mean, it was, but I actually had fun with it. I watched it in the theater.
What? That movie got a theatrical?
Yeah, bro.
It was a real limited one, but yeah, I think I could.
Holy fuck! I didn't know that. I thought it was one of those like straight VOD, like straight to DVD type things.
It pretty much was, but it was in theaters for like a couple days, maybe a week.
It kind of got a viral thing going on because I know that like my theater, I think there was a pretty decent amount of people in there for it, and it was in like the winter too, like February or something.
Yeah, it was early.
I mean, I guess
Kind
it's
of probably
possible.
capitalized on like Terrifier 2, because that's kind of like what happened.
Yeah, it's a trend, right? Like, I mean, if you're gonna
Mhm.
do Banana Splits and all these type of killer animatronic movies and stuff, like, you might as well make Winnie the Pooh a fucking villain, right?
And like I actually thought first, it's a low budget slasher film essentially, but it wasn't super polished. But for what it was, I was like, you know what, this had some fun stuff in it and some cool ideas.
Is it just
the
a dude?
acting's not the greatest.
Is it just a dude in a Winnie the Pooh costume, or is it like, is there CG in the movie and shit?
I feel like it was mostly practical if my memory's right.
I actually just read yesterday that they're doing a sequel and Tigger's gonna actually be in the sequel.
Yeah, well, Piglet was in this one.
Really?
It was Winnie and Piglet, and Piglet was fucking creepy.
I was surprised that Tigger wasn't in this one. Like, he's such a main character.
Well, I think also that it's like when because the reason they're able to do this is because they went into public domain. But I think the Tigger character might have been introduced years later, so it might not have been in public domain yet or something.
Oh, I had no idea. Really? Public domain? That's so random, dude. You wouldn't think that Winnie the Pooh would be public domain.
That's why people like eye rolled about it, because in public domain, so someone was like, really? So
that makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, right. Crazy. That's funny.
It could have been way worse. Like I had fun with it. I would put it on par with like Banana Splits, like the quality wise, maybe a little bit less.
I had so much fun with Banana Splits, man.
So did I, but I grew up watching the show too.
Yeah, I had never really seen much of it, and then I checked out a couple clips before I saw the movie. I was like, oh, okay. And then I actually have this Saturday morning cartoon big box set that I bought, I think maybe earlier this year or whatever, and it actually has some of the episodes on there. I was like, oh, fucking sweet. So I watched them.
That show is so fucking like 70s.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Or is it 60s?
No, it was, I think the episodes that I seen were from the early 70s. It could have been on in the 60s. I'm not sure. I never checked actually the run dates on it, but it was like 71, something like that. Very scratchy, very low budget kiddie program. It's pretty.
It was 68 so 68 to 70.
70. Okay. Because I'm pretty sure the episodes that I watched were from 1970, but they could have been from 1960. I'm not sure, but
Yeah, that
Either way.
show. I remember it used to be on all the time, like late at night when I was a kid.
Yeah, I'd
Like Cartoon
never heard of it.
Network.
Maybe it didn't run in syndication up in Canada. I have no idea because I was very unfamiliar with it. I remember Zach bringing it up. He's like, "You never seen Banana Splits?" I'm like, "Bro, it might not have been in syndication. Like sometimes we just didn't get some of
Honestly,
those
I don't
shows."
remember the show either.
Yeah, maybe it only
It
played in
came
certain
on
areas.
really late at night.
Which is
I like for some reason, like until like I was probably like in the late single digits, I just like didn't watch Cartoon Network. So there is like this little era like I missed. I was just like a pure Nickelodeon kid for some
yeah,
reason.
it must not have been in because like I still watch cartoons like I'm a kid. And like
Yeah.
I watched cartoons all the way through the 80s and 90s. Like I'd never heard of it. So like, it obviously was not airing up here. But yeah, which doesn't really surprise me. That's happened with a few shows that just never ran in syndication. It's just rights. It's kind of like the region shit, right? Sometimes you just don't get them, and sometimes you do. I don't know.
Yeah, usually you guys are the ones getting hosed by that.
Yeah, like I don't know. I wonder. Yeah, never mind. Thinking of myself.
By the way, I did get an update since it is Italian Horror Month. I got an update on Dario Argento.
Oh shit! More laughs.
Sandman.
So this one is, as we know, Dario Argento was silent for about 10 years. In between Dracula and Black Glasses was 10 years. And all of a sudden we got a Dario Argento film out of nowhere last year. And I think we were all like kind of impressed with what it was, considering what he had been. But shortly after that film was released, it was announced that he was working on another film. And it is called
It's called
no, I forget what it's called. I don't know if it has a title, but it's
The Dario Argento project.
yeah. It's supposed to be a remake of a classic 1940s Mexican film.
It's called Sandman.
It was supposed to film. It was in pre-production.
Did you say a remake of a 40s movie?
Yeah.
A 40s Mexican movie.
A 40s. Wow, that's bizarre. I can't even picture Argento like
Maybe he's
remaking
a Luis Buñuel film or something.
Yeah,
That'd be
like
funny.
remaking a movie at this stage in his career just seems so bizarre. I guess that's maybe where you're at when you're that old.
Maybe he's like old and it's like he's like thinking about like his mortality and he thought of something that reminded him of his childhood. He's like, I'm going to remake the movie.
He's gonna make fucking Dracula 4D.
But it's supposed to star Isabel Huppert, and they were actually supposed to start filming in Paris in spring, but Dario Argento basically got injured from a fall and broke his femur, so it was delayed, and now it's supposed to film in the near future, I guess. But it was actually set to start shooting in spring. I remember when they announced that. But wow. I guess he fell and broke his femur. I mean, he's like,
I remember hearing that around last year too.
That's a rough break, man. At that age to break your femur, dude. Oh, yikes. Like that could kill you, man.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. 82 years old, Dario Argento.
It's not good.
It was supposed to produce in the spring, and it's now supposed to start shooting early 2024.
That's kind of big. He's got Isabel Huppert in it. That's like,
yeah,
she's a pretty respectable name to have in your movie.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. But then again, you know, I mean, it is Argento. Like, I mean, if you were, I bet Argento could probably get a lot of people in his movies.
Yeah, that's like a name that just like adds a lot of credibility because she's like at a point in her career where she just doesn't take on like bad projects.
Right.
Yeah, she said something about how Dario is like a legendary filmmaker and stuff. So even if you factor in his later films, he's still highly respected amongst, you know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people after Dark Glasses came out kind of assumed that a lot of his decline had to do with like studio / budgetary reasons.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's still competent. Like Dark Glasses might not be like the stuff of his 70s and 80s, but it shows the flashes that we knew Argento had. So, and that's like one of the first times I've seen, because usually when a director gets on their streak of bad films towards the end of their career, it usually never comes back to like something that's decent. So that was pretty cool to see, especially 10 years after Dracula. So the landscape of the world, if you just take Dracula 3D and then, you know, what it is now is so different, even with like technology, like even cell phones are so different from 2012 to now. It's kind of crazy how much things has changed in 10 years.
I mean, Dark Glasses was definitely, I mean, it was definitely my favorite film probably since like, you know, I'd probably say Sleepless. Well, I think I like Stendhal Syndrome better than Sleepless, but I'd probably say since the Stendhal Syndrome in 96, I think it was, I mean, I think it's probably his best piece of work since then. I mean, that's a long
I would probably
time.
agree with that, but I also don't think it was great.
I don't think Dark Glasses was great, but I had a lot of fun with it, man. And I just like the fact that, like, you know, like Argento was in it and stuff, and just the native language and stuff. Like, it just felt different. It felt right. You know,
it felt natural versus like when you were getting, you know, Dracula 3D and the card player and stuff like that. It felt so far removed from what Argento had done.
The card player is such a piece of shit. Like, it is really fucking bad. Like, I'm sorry, man, but like that movie is fucking trash bags, dude. And it's hard to watch now, like that fucking whole gambling poker. Oh, it's like, it's just so I mean, it was outdated. It was outdated in 2003.
I love the technology in it. Like, I love the computers and shit.
Yeah, man. And like Giallo, fuck. Like, I still don't understand the whole Giallo title to that movie and shit. It makes no fucking sense to me. You know, call a movie Giallo and then not even make a fucking Giallo. It's fucked up too. It's just bizarre to me. Although I didn't mind his Masters of Horror episode.
Both of those were good.
Yeah, both of them were pretty good, man. And actually, to be honest, man, I actually like the Hitchcock movie. Do you like Hitchcock? I mean, a lot of people kind of shit on it, but I think it's because it was like made for TV and it's kind of dumbed down and stuff. It's not like, you know, your kind of typical Argento that you're going to get and stuff. But I kind of like.
I mean, I like it too. Yeah. The only one that I actually think is like bad to me is the card player. But even that, I'm at like a 4.5 type 5 rating.
I would rather watch the card player than Giallo, though. Giallo is just a bore fest.
I actually literally like Giallo. Like,
oh man,
it's like, I think it's pretty solid.
At least it's been so long since I've seen it to have an opinion.
Like Dracula 3D, man. I remember when it first came out, and just being totally taken back at like how shitty it was, like the CG in it and stuff, and it was just so poorly put together. And then when we reviewed it, I think it would have been probably on the last Argento volume or whatever. And like, it obviously still isn't great, but it was better than I remembered for some odd reason. Like there's moments in the narrative and there's certain things about it that I actually didn't mind. And I remember people even commenting and being like, yeah, you know, it wasn't as bad as I remembered it to be. Because I think like it had been so long, like it had been like 10 years since I'd seen it kind of thing. And it was so far removed. And like, you know how you remember things like one way and then you watch something, you're like, fuck, man, I don't remember it being like that. And I had that moment with Dracula 3D and I was like, it's really not as bad as I remembered, because, you know, you talk about how bad it is for a whole decade and then you rewatch something. And that's what I always, that's what I always try to tell people too. It's like, if you remember not liking something, but you have an interest in rewatching it, like, go back and rewatch something, man. It might be a totally different thing. You might just be not remembering it, you know, for what it actually is. And I've had that happen to me a few times. And like, we gave it a pretty positive review. And I think some of the comments were coming in and being like, yeah, like I rewatched Dracula 3D. It's actually not as bad as I remember. And I'm like, I know, right? Like, it was one of those kind of like, oh shit moments. Like, fuck, stop harping on this.
It also came out in a landscape of where, like, I think it was the tail end of like the angry horror fan. It was post remake era. And literally, I remember everything that came out, people hated. Like, early days of YouTube, you know, we just started YouTube in like 2012, but I watched people's videos for like 3 years before that. And
yeah, me too. I was about the same.
And it literally, like, people were like just such haters. Like it's so vivid to me to think back to that time period because I was young and like impressionable in my horror knowledge, and I just remember everybody hating everything and just talking shit on everything. Like everybody was so miserable.
I felt
and it turns out there was actually a lot of good films that were coming out at that time, but just people were focused on like Jennifer's body and shit.
You're so right about the I think that's what that era of YouTube was like. It was YouTube was getting a lot bigger in like 2009, 10 and stuff like that. And I think people were just trying to make names for themselves by just harping on shit all the time. But you're right. Everyone fucking hated everything. And the only person that you could watch that had like a positive spin on anything was fucking Cool Duder. Because, he never shits on anything. So, like, I think that's
Fat Duder was the man back then.
I think it was one of those things where you got so sick of fucking watching people's videos that were just shitting on every movie. And then you watch Cool Duder and it was like a breath of fresh air because he's like, yeah, no, this is pretty fun. He was doing like these trauma lists and stuff. And you're like, oh, he's having fun, but he's never ripping on anything. But then you know him years later. That's the way he is. He doesn't really like to say anything bad about anything, which, it is what it is. But yeah, it was just kind of refreshing to see someone not harping on anything. But you're right, though. Like, I remember when this shit came out, the YouTube videos were so fucking funny on this, though. Like Dracula 3D, man. Oh, well,
dude, do you remember when the first trailer came out? Like,
oh, fuck.
And it didn't it didn't have the effects done, and it literally would pop up in the bottom, like it was like effects not complete.
Yeah.
It was just like skeletal, like of like the praying mantis, just like the outline of it and shit. Like, and I just remember like, why would you ever fucking release that?
So we talked about this for like one time. We were both just baffled. Like, why would you ever show that to someone? Because that's the first. Because like the cliche says, like first impressions, are first impressions. Like that's what happened. Like it gets ingrained in your mind. Like we're still talking about this thing like fucking 11 years later. Like how stupid that was to do that to people.
Yeah.
I can't even believe that they did that. It was literally the funniest thing. And I've never actually ever seen another movie ever do that. Have you ever seen that before?
No, I've never heard of something like that. Right? That's like insanity.
Why would you give that as a first impression on something? Oh, by the way, like, did they have to meet a deadline to get the trailer out?
It's like even if they had to meet a deadline, like you don't have to
fucking weird, right?
I think it was like one of those like Cannes Film Fest things, like where they were trying to get investors to like finish the film or something like that, and then maybe it like wasn't supposed to really be like a public thing, but it did. I don't know the full story, but I remember it was like, I think it had to do with with something along those lines of like a film festival.
But even if you're trying to get investors, like, why would you show them like half done like effects and stuff? Like, just show them some other shit, but not that. Like,
I can see like where they could say like, think of how good this could be if we had effects here. Right. Yeah, I can see like where.
Yeah, to this day, that's still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. Man.
That is like so funny.
It's so bizarre.
Get out like that though.
So fucking bizarre, man. Oh shit.
Like, because I have seen like a movie before, like that was as like a test screener, and like the music wasn't there, the effects weren't done, so there's parts that just look like complete dog shit. Where there was like
actually, you know what's funny about that? This past year, when I was doing the Fantasia Film Festival. Online reviews, but I ended up getting COVID and didn't watch like anything. I think I watched like 6 movies, but one of the first ones I watched was a Larry Fessenden project that was a werewolf film, and it literally said at the beginning of the movie that this is a temp score or something like that. That the score wasn't the actual score.
Yeah, but the score, I mean, that's a little bit different than showing like half done effects and stuff and like just showing like little twigs on the screen and shit. Like a score, it is what it is, man. I mean, you can change the score for anything if you want. Like,
right. But I just thought it was interesting. I've never seen a movie that was like pre-done. You know what I mean? It was like before it was done.
I don't remember much about it because I was wicked drunk, but my brother was with me and he was not drunk. And I was like, that was great. And he was like, bro, that was terrible. That was some of the worst shit I've ever seen. What do you mean that was great?
What Fessenden movie was that werewolf thing? Like, what was it?
I feel like it's called something Road or something. I'll look it up.
I don't know that. Like
the movie I was seeing was Return to Nukem High Part 2.
It's mostly it's called Blackout. Sorry. I think it was known as another title at first.
Oh, okay.
Working title.
It was because I don't know if it's released yet.
Is it like an older film that just never got like how
No,
like
it's 2023.
Oh shit, man! So Fessenden's still doing man. I love Larry Fessenden as a director and as an actor, man. He's good at both. He's actually really underrated, man. Like that.
Well,
set that
you're gonna be disappointed with this one.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying everything that he's done has been great, but I like his early stuff, man. Like the Fessenden box set that Screen Factory put out, man. It's all good movies, man. It's like good stuff,
those
man.
are fun.
There's like two of his that have kind of impressed me when I first saw them, and they were both like older movies.
Yeah, like his '90s shit, dude. Like
what was like that movie like Cure, like the vampire one?
Yeah,
like,
man,
Cure or something.
It's fucking good, man. It's really good.
That's an interesting movie. And
like good
the
indie,
first one he did, like
good
No
indie
Telling
films.
or something. That was a really cool indie movie.
Yeah, really good shit, man. The thing I like about Fessenden, man, he pops up and he makes cameos in so many goddamn movies, and like it's almost like he prefers to be like that side character and act like he doesn't have too many starring roles in movies unless he's doing his own kind of thing.
Yeah.
Although he just did that movie with Barbara Crampton. What was it, last year? Year before? They're married. They play a married couple. Fuck was it called? I can't remember. I watched it. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. But yeah, I was like, wow, that's kind of a cool couple. Fessenden and Barbara Crampton. Interesting. But yeah, Fessenden, man, he's a cool dude, man. I like that guy. What the fuck was I gonna say? All right. So last week we did.
Actually, Barbara Crampton's in Blackout, I think.
Is she?
Barbara Crampton?
Yeah.
They're probably just homies.
Yeah, they probably are.
I know they were in what together? We Are Still Here Together.
Right.
Yeah.
She was in that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So they probably like. There's probably just like these like a lot of those like older, especially those older actors, have kind of just hung around horror. Probably.
Isn't she working on some kind of remake or something?
I don't know, but like she's probably somebody that people call like, "Hey, you want to do a little movie?" Or like she has people she has connections with too. And like Larry's is probably a good link with her.
Yeah. Yeah, she ever since she got back into acting, because she kind of retired there for a while, and she's done a lot of shit in like the last 15 years. It's crazy. Like she's been in like 100 fucking movies literally in like the last decade. It's crazy. So good for her. So last week we did what was the list? Top 21
Halloween movies.
Halloween movies?
On Halloween or something, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of a fun list. One of the comments that came in from that was it was just the Karate Kid, LOL. It's fucking so stupid. I was laughing at that all week.
A reach.
Oh, that is so stupid. It's such a dumb thing. But that's why I like taking a look at lists and shit, because they always crack me up. But so I did a quick little Google here, and I don't know if I've ever actually done one of these before. I definitely didn't do this list, but because I don't recognize the website at all. But I just typed in like top Giallo.
I think we did Italian horror before. I don't know if we've
like
specifically done Giallo.
Yeah, I don't think there was an actual Giallo. I think it might have been Italian horror or something like that. But so I typed in top Giallo films, and this website came up called tilt.go Bama Stomp. I don't know. Go Goom, Tilt Goom. I don't know. Tilt Magazine anyways is what it is. But it says it came up as it's called Kill Baby Kill, the 27 best Giallo films.
27? That's such a weird...
I know. I just typed in top. I was expecting maybe a top 20, but this was the first thing that came up, and I was like, 27? Who the fuck makes a 27 list? It's just so... Okay. It's so uneven. You know what I mean? Make a 25 or a 30. Why 27? That's interesting. So we'll quickly go through this because I haven't even scrolled down. So is it right? Oh, okay. It is numbered. I hate when they're not numbered. That annoys the shit out of me.
Before you get into that, did you guys see the post in?
I was waiting for this.
Not to be a dick, but did you see the post in 22 Shots Facebook group about Michele Soave? And his best Giallo films.
I did, and I commented on it, and of course Sam was having an argument back and forth, but I was like, bro, like these aren't fucking Giallos, man. Like,
they're not even close.
Well, I was the first person that commented, and I was like, I think you mean Italian films because Suave didn't do any Giallo.
The only one you could even
Stage
argue
fright.
at all
Stage
is Stage Fright.
Stage fright comes up on Giallo list.
It's not a Giallo.
Yeah, it comes
100% is not a Giallo.
It's more like an American slasher, really. Like
it is. That's literally what it is.
But it does come up on quite a few Giallo lists. But like when you mentioned Cemetery Man or something like that in the
he was trying to argue like The Church was.
Yeah, The Church
what
is complete.
Bro, I think listen, and not to make fun of Cameron, but I think he's using Italian films as interchangeable with Giallo. Mm-hmm. Like, because there are some definitions online and stuff that just basically lump Italian films in. They're another word for, Italian film is Giallo.
I see Suspiria get called a Giallo all the time.
Which is not even
people
close.
try to argue with me and tell me like, no, I think it's a Giallo. Okay, then what's a Giallo? And then they can't tell you what a Giallo is.
It's not a Giallo.
Whatever Suspiria is. It's not.
I see Suspiria pop up on Giallo lists all the time, and I'm like, fuck, that's so annoying to me. It just annoys me.
People just see Dario Argento, like the guy who made arguably the most popular and best Giallo director, just made like other movies, and his most popular movie isn't a Giallo, but he made it in between a bunch, so they just assume it is.
And it's funny too. You have earlier Giallos that aren't even considered, like people don't even consider them Giallos, but they're totally Giallos. Like just because they were like early or considered to be like a proto Giallo or some shit like that, like the girl who knew too much, like Bava's first. So like most people that know the history of Giallos kind of consider that to be like the very kind of first one, kind of thing. But it never gets mentioned as like the early Giallo, like the first Giallo kind of thing.
I think like the first, I always look at like this, the first like real like stylistic prototype to me is Blood and Black Lace. But like I think
that's where it completely like becomes a Giallo through and through.
Yeah, but I think like the format where people really got behind Giallo and like popularized and copied was Bird with the Crystal Plumage.
Yeah, well, yeah, like the later 60s, early is when it became like that movie popularized it. And
I think people saw that movie and people were like, "Let's fucking make that."
But it's crazy because like Bava had done a few up to that point that were pretty fucking. I mean, even The Possessed, like this movie is considered to be one of the very kind of first kind of Giallo-esque type films and stuff. And this one was released just after Blood and Black Lace, Bava's Blood and Black Lace. So around the exact same time. Mm-hmm. So they kind of consider them to be like protos because it's pretty early, man. It's like mid 60s, right? Girl Who Knew Too Much, I think, was 63. Like it's really fucking early.
It was 63.
Yeah. Like that's really early. But it's definitely, if you take that movie and compare it to Blood and Black Lace, it's almost like night and day, but it still shares some of those genetic makeups of what a Giallo actually is. And then Blood and Black Lace just kind of puts it to the forefront. So, but, so top 27 best Giallos according to Tilt magazine. Number 27 is Torso. Sergio Martino's.
I mean, starting off strong.
Yeah,
that's probably one of my favorites.
It's funny that it's number 27.
That's got one of the best kills, I think, of like any Giallo.
It's actually one of my favorites too. Actually, Martino never really missed with his Giallos, man. Super underrated director in general. Kind of a journeyman, but I mean, he's mostly probably known for his horror films and his Giallos and stuff. But he did shit all over the place, man. He did westerns, he did fucking crime films, he did comedy, he did everything, man. Like a lot of Italian directors, right? Journeyman.
Yeah, just like the genre films.
Yeah, I mean, it was the way the studios were because the studios would be like, "Hey, Martino, you're making a fucking western today. Go get it." It's like it's so bizarre how they did it, but
see.
Yeah, number 26 is A Blade in the Dark, 1983. Which would be Lamberto Bava.
Never seen it.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it. Was that his first movie?
Technically. No, Macabre would have been 1980.
Oh yeah, Macabre was his first movie. Yeah, okay,
right. And it depends how you look at it too, because like he pretty much kind of did like his dad's last film, like Shock. Like I know he was the assistant director on that. It goes under Mario Bava's name, but I think Lamberto directed most of the movie though. But yeah, Macabre would have been his first film, which we've done. I think we probably reviewed a lot of these films on this list. Come to think of it,
yeah.
So far we've reviewed both of those, I believe. Did we do a Blade?
No, we never did Blade in the Dark because I've never seen it.
Weird. I can't believe that we never did that. What the fuck?
We've only done one Lamberto Bava show, I think, right?
And that was what? What did we do?
Demons 2, and
was it Macabre?
Macabre, yeah. I think.
Shit. Okay. All right.
So Dark's got that nice Vincent release, right?
Which one?
Blade of Dark. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I got
That's
that
what I'm
cool
thinking
like
of.
box set that like opens.
Oh yeah, the box is fucking
Diagonally.
gnarly, dude. It's so gnarly. Okay, so number 25 is Dario Argento's Trauma from 93.
Ugh. Oh no.
I'm okay with it.
I
I
I'm
mean,
Ugh.
definitely.
We'll
I would
see.
Definitely
We'll
say
see
that
at the end of
Torso is
it.
a better
What movies
movie.
are not on
yeah,
this list
see,
at
like
the end of it.
and that's the thing. Like,
Is
you
this
can argue-
ranked?
It is. I guess. I mean, it says the.
I
top
mean, like if it's
27
gonna be on this list, it's gonna be like towards the back. But
Yeah,
like
I mean-
we'll see what's left off at the end.
See, we can make fun of it because they actually disclose this as best Giallo films too. So Trauma would be number 25. I don't even think Trauma wouldn't even make my top 27.
I don't think it would make my top
No,
20.
probably not.
either.
There's
That's
no
why
way.
I'm saying like let's see what's left off at the end.
Right. Number 24. Oh shit. The Fifth Chord. We'll be talking about that one soon enough here. Of course, Luigi Bazzoni's Fifth Chord. Number 23, which is Argento again for Flies on Grey Velvet,
Okay.
which is cool.
Yeah, I think that one is the weakest of the three.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
By far. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean it's weak, but it's just, it's the weakest of the
Of the three. If it's gonna make this list, I would probably have it like in like the back 20s like this.
Oh, this is one that I'm pretty happy to see on the list because I love this movie. In the Folds of the Flesh from 1970.
I haven't even heard of this movie.
Oh, it's great.
Can't remember. Probably since it's 70, I want to say that I probably seen it, but
You probably did. Yeah.
I don't
I'd probably
remember.
mentioned to watch it or whatever. It's good. I believe it was on my list, my 1970 list. I have no idea. I don't even remember what my number. Oh, 1970. I can't remember.
Right
I
with
always
the Crystal Plumage was 70.
yeah. So the Folds of Flesh. I wonder if that actually made my top 10. I can't remember. Number 21, The Killer Must Kill Again. Luigi.
I think
Cozy.
we've reviewed that.
Yeah, we did.
That sounds familiar.
Luigi Cozy.
Huh.
Yeah, we definitely did that one.
Is that the one I fucking hated?
I think you might not have liked that one as much. Yeah,
what
for
one
sure.
was it? Remember the one that ended with like the lesbian thing that I fucking hated?
Yeah.
I forget what movie that
Me
was.
too. Yeah, I remember
That's
that.
so Italian. Lesbians.
Actually, we'll get into actually one of the reveals in one of the films we're going to watch tonight was it
Yeah.
fucking made me laugh. It fucking totally made me
I
laugh.
was like, I was thinking this too. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I was like, what the fuck?
I was like, this would not fly today.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. That was like, so fucking weird. All right. So number 20 is The Case of the Scorpion's Tail. We've also reviewed that before. That's going back to
That was
Sergio
last
Martino.
year.
Yeah, I was on that show.
So it's already two Martino films. Number 19, The New York Ripper from 1982. I believe
Great
that was
one.
my favorite film from 1982. I've seen The New York Ripper
I think I would have
astonishingly
this higher.
probably more times than anyone ever needs to see The New York Ripper. Man, I've watched it so many fucking times in my life. It's crazy. And the foot scene still makes me gag. It makes me absolutely
Dude, it's
lose my
gross.
shit.
It really is.
It's disgusting, dude. Ugh. It's
Oh,
fucking
yeah, it's super
it-
nasty.
it's like a nasty and
It's
sleazy.
just like, and it's
Ugh.
like two people were involved in that. Like, why would either of you act like that?
Oh, I know, it's so gross.
Ugh.
You know me,
That-
I have like foot trauma, man. Like I'm so I hate feet so much. I can't even look at my own feet. Like it's just I hate feet. Oh, and
Yeah.
that part grosses me out, man.
It's pretty gross.
That's one that I has like grown on. Like every time I watch it, I like it more and more. With most Fulcis, honestly, but
Yeah.
that one today would have probably made my 82 list, which it did not back when we did that.
Shut up. That wasn't on your 82. That's crazy, man. 82 is a strong year though. There's a lot of good films.
There is. There's-
That's kind of funny though, because it should have made your number 10 because it was my number 1, right?
Right. Yeah. Today it probably would be my number 10 because there's just titles in there that can't be topped, like Amityville 2 for me,
Right.
fucking Friday 2, I think. 3.
Yeah.
Friday 3.
Yeah, Friday 3, yep.
Yeah, but great. That's a good year. I'd probably pick it over something like Poltergeist, honestly, now.
Mm-hmm.
Poltergeist has not aged that well with me.
I just never have been like the biggest fan of it in general. Like I know it's a good movie. I'm actually
I
staring at
think
the
like the
4K
first
right
like
now.
quarter of the movie's really good, and the conclusion's pretty good, but like the middle is kind of just like
I think there's some interesting scenes in that. I love the scene in the pool with like all the skulls and shit. It's like you remember like that movie was it was a PG film, right? Back in
Yeah.
1982. So it was before the whole PG-13 rating. So I mean, in theory, it probably
like the
would have been
parents
rated
smoking weed in the
PG-13.
bedroom.
I would give it a rated R, but a PG-13 would have been probably the right rating for that film. But there's some pretty dark imagery in that film with like all that skulls floating and shit. It's pretty nasty. Like I always remember that as a kid watching that and being like, it was just ingrained in my brain. I'm like, that's gross. Used to freak
We
me
actually never did the franchise.
No, we actually have never done.
Poltergeist 2 is really underrated. That movie's like legitimately really scary.
Yeah. I actually really like Poltergeist. Actually, Poltergeist 3 is one of my favorite movie posters of all time. I absolutely love that poster art.
The tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just love the way it's shot and like the colors on. I love that fucking poster, man. I got to get one. All right. So number 18, Black Belly, the Tarantula from 1971. Good film.
Did we do that one?
Yeah, we did that.
This one's kind of hard to find. I have a bootleg of it.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple copies of this movie actually. Number 17 is Death Walks on High Heels.
Next week.
Interesting enough. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good film right there. Number 16 is Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye from 1972. I actually rewatched this, I think, last year.
Does this have a different title? Who directed this?
Who directed this again? We did this. Did we do this one?
I don't think so.
I can't remember who directed. Does it say on here? It actually does not.
No, I just don't know this movie. Okay.
It's a good movie. I like it.
This looks cool.
It's got really good cinematography in it, man. I like the setting of it too. It's pretty cool. Number 15 is Stage Fright.
Oh, come on.
AKA Aquarius. Oh, go fucking figure that motherfucker's on this list. Mikhail Suave.
If someone was gonna argue this one's a Giallo, like I'll accept it.
I won't. It's not. It has no investigation narrative. It's just a slasher.
It is pretty. It's pretty much an American slasher, man. It's a dude in an owl fucking costume with a chainsaw. Like
it is a great. I love fucking Stage Fright. It's good.
It is. I love the score in Stage Fright too, man. It's awesome.
Good music, man. Fucking weird too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it is. Oh, here we go. Number 14, a lizard in woman's skin.
Great
good
film.
One.
I like this one a lot. I'm definitely gonna watch that this month.
Yeah. I fucking love that movie, man. It's great stuff. Number 13 is Tenebrae.
See, now that's where I think that's my favorite Giallo.
You know, it's up there, man. Like Tenebrae,
it would be close. It's not my favorite, but it's close to the top.
I think that's my favorite one ever. So for me,
it really grew on me, man. I always loved
I always call that like Tenebrae, like the Giallo highlight reel.
Like
that's what it feels like to me.
I always
they just took all the best stuff and the stuff that came out the first 10 years, and they just like kind of stylized it and made it like a highlight reel, like the best of Giallos.
Yeah, I think it's like the all-encompassing, sort of like how Friday the 13th was for, slasher films.
Mm-hmm.
It just completely nailed the formula.
This one's bloody. It's got so much blood.
It's very violent. This is definitely like one of the most, if not the most violent Giallos.
Yeah, like that scene.
And I think it's Argento's best shot too.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. I always used to put Bird right up there for like my favorite, but I think Tenebrae might even be my favorite besides Deep Red. I have this thing with Deep Red, man. I love everything about Deep Red. I know JP is a little bit indifferent on it, but
I was gonna hold my hand close to my chest.
You know what?
I'm also on the Deep Red train. I think Deep Red is my favorite Giallo.
I love it, man. I love the score. And I just like David Hemmings, man. I'm just I like him as an actor, and like he just in that role, he's really good. And I just like the construction of it, but the score, like there's just so many elements to that movie, man, that just work. I just find it tantalizing when I watch it, man.
Yeah, I think it's got a little. And I used to be short, like the shortcut, always 100%. I thought the long cut was always like way too bloated and it didn't add anything. And like I think now, like that's what makes it good, because it's just like this, like really like thematically rich, like pulpy, like lots of different flavor, like Giallo.
I know Dave Z would argue it because he never watches the longer cut, but I always watch the longer cut too, though. That was the one.
If you watch on the Arrow 4K, like if they've cleaned it up so good that you can't even, if you watch it all, if you just watch the Italian cut, you can't, unless you know what scenes they are, you can't even like see like the reinserted scenes that never had an English dub anymore. Like it just all looks the same.
Right. Yeah, it's impressive when they can actually connect the dots like that and make it seamless. It's pretty nuts, man. It was kind of like the My Bloody Valentine, like when they redid, like, remember that one release that they put out years ago, and it had the inserted scene, which was kind of cool because I even kept it because, like, it's kind of cool to watch that version because it really does showcase the scenes that were cut out, and it puts it in perspective how fucking much they cut out of that movie for the theatrical. Like, it's mind blowing.
It's like actually a lot.
It's like it's like fucking like 15 minutes. It's a ton of time, but it's like all the kills and everything. And then when you watch the seamless, like the remastered Scream Factory version where all those scenes are put in, but they remaster all that shit to the point where it's like seamless. It's impressive, man. You're like, fuck, that's crazy. It went from like that type of like almost VHS footage to like this, where you can't even tell. So if that was the first time you're ever watching it, you wouldn't even know, right? It's crazy. I think they did a pretty good job.
I think that I like the idea of being able to see what was cut. The Silent Night, Deadly Night's like that too.
Right. And I always like that too about Silent Night, Deadly Night, was seeing that footage kind of
because I saw My Bloody Valentine in the theater a couple years ago, and it was the R-rated cut, and I was like, dude, there's like no fucking kills in this movie in that cut, like, because I had watched the uncut version so many times.
I don't think I've ever seen like the R-rated cut.
It's not good, like in turn, there's so much missing from it.
I grew up watching the R cut because like renting the video and stuff, and that's the cut that you got. So like when the uncut version came out, or the first time I saw it or whatever it was, I was fucking I had to take like 10 steps back. I was like, what the fuck? It's like a totally different movie. So I remember having comments on my videos and stuff and being like, I remember this one guy commenting, he's like, My Bloody Valentine is such a useless slasher film because it has like no gore in it. There's like no kills. And I'm like, dude, you've been watching the fucking cut version your whole life then. I'm like, you need to see the uncut version because it literally changes the entire movie. It's so much better. Like, it's crazy. Like, it cuts out whole fucking scenes, man. Like, there's whole scenes that are cut. And, you know, it's like the kills and shit. And I'm like, man, you got to see this shit. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't even exist, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck, whatever, man, useless. So.
All right, you fucking chud.
I just don't argue with people, like, whatever, man. It's out there. It's not like it's a hidden fucking thing, man. It's very widely, readily available for the public to see. And it's uncut in true form. So whatever, bro. All right. So number 12, The Strange Vice of Miss Ward.
Good film.
Great fucking movie from 1971.
Kill Bill stole the score.
We reviewed that last year too.
Edwidge Fenwick. Yeah, man. It's a great film. That, again, I mean, Martino's all over this fucking list, man. That's crazy. Number 11 is The House with Laughing Windows. Cool.
Ooh. All right, baby.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
good
excited for that one. I've never seen that.
It's good.
You're excited to watch it. I've always heard that as like a top one.
It's cool to see it actually so high on the list here. So interesting. All right, so top 10, going back to the man of the hour, which is Sergio Martino, and Your Vice is a Locked Room, and Only I Have the Key from 1970. Dux.
One of my favorites.
I'll take that. I'll take that around that area.
Again with, oh man, dude, such a great movie. Such a great movie.
Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer, actually. Of
course, it's the version or the telling of the Black Cat story from Poe. That's such a great box set, man. Like the Black Cat box set that Arrow put out with Fulci's Black Cat. Have you guys ever seen?
Yeah, that was one of their first US releases.
Yeah. Like when I first watched Fulci's Black Cat, I wasn't the hugest fan of that movie years ago. And I've seen it a bunch of times since. I absolutely love that movie, man. It's really well done. It's actually impressive, like what he did with that. It's pretty cool. It's, you know,
I've
it's
actually still not seen it. Yeah.
Shit,
I've still not seen that one.
It's good, man. It's good.
I thought it was pretty decent.
Yeah, it's good. Number 9, which is Don't Torture a Duckling. I know that was my number 1 from 1970.
I would have this higher. I think this is.
Yeah, that's top tier shit right there.
Yeah.
I mean, and the story behind this movie.
One of the best Giallos.
It really is, man. It's disturbing. It's like, it's outing, you know, like Fulci had a lot of fucking balls doing this movie. I mean, if you guys want to check out the review that we did, we go into more about the history of the film and stuff like that. And like, you know, what Fulci was touching on and the fact that like, it was pretty groundbreaking for someone to be doing what he was doing back in those days, because no one talked about this shit, right? Publicly. Right. Going against the churches and shit, and just kind of outing the hypocrisies of religion and shit. And it's just such a great film. It's amazing. And it has one of the most beautiful dummy deaths of all time.
I love it.
It's so good, man. Oh my God, that dummy death is great.
Dummy death is like the quickest way to my heart. I love dummy death so much.
Dude, I could be watching the shittiest movie ever made, and it could totally fully redeem itself if it just has a great dummy death, man. Like I'm not the biggest fan of Terror Train. I've said this over the years. Like I'm not a huge fan of that movie. Like I find it very, I don't know.
It's kind of a slog, and the reveal is a little bit like, come on, dude.
I know. I've never been a huge fan of Terror Train. Like I don't dislike Terror Train, but the whole movie, I always end up saying I like Terror Train because of the dummy death at the end. Right? That's the last thing that you see before the credits roll, and it gets me every time. It puts a smile on my face. I'm like, yeah, I don't mind Terror Train.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way.
It's like, it's the dummy death. That's the only thing I like about the movie, man. And
when I watched it for like
funny.
1980, the whole time I thought I'm just watching this movie waiting for this dummy death.
Dude, me too. Like when it hits the fucking creek and then it starts like shimmying down, like I lose my shit every time. Dude.
Yeah. The way it's just like it gets ejected.
Oh man, it's
like
so
he got shot out of a cannon.
Fucking Terror Train, man. Yeah, that's in my opinion, man. If I was to make like a legit like overrated, what I think are overrated movies, I think that's one. It gets mentioned all the time.
It's because Jamie Lee's in it.
It's because Jamie Lee Curtis, and I always make the joke, and I'm like, yeah, it's it totally is because of Jamie. But anyways, yeah, I just feel like it's overrated. It truly is. Shoot me in the face, whatever. Number 8 is Blood and Black Lace, 64, Mario Bava.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
All right.
Very, very colorful, kind of what started that color palettes, like, just utilizing those color palettes and just, being booyak on the screen is fucking amazing. Okay, so number 7, which is Bay of Blood, aka Twitch of the Death Nerve, 1971. Again, Mario Bava.
Good film, but I don't think it's better than like the movies that were just above it.
It's interesting. It's very violent, but like this movie plays out like a straight up slasher. Like straight
up. I just love that Luigi Bazzoni. He's like so fucking mad the whole movie. Oh.
Yeah. I like Bay of Blood, man. I mean, it's one of those, it's like a popcorn flick to me. You know what I mean? Like I've always enjoyed it, but it's like, I wouldn't, if I was making a best of list, but even on my favorite list, this wouldn't be higher than Blood and Black Lace.
This would be like a good, like, if it was going to make this list for me, it would be somewhere in the 20s probably.
Yeah, it would be down there too. I think we even touched on that too, JP, like when we reviewed it, like, like it's always gets talked about like as being this fucking movie, like it's always up there on these lists and it always gets mentioned in every conversation, whatever you're talking about, Bob or whatever. And it's interesting.
Honestly, I like Hatchet for the Honeymoon better.
Okay, number 6, Hatchet for the Honeymoon, 1970.
Oh, there you go, baby. But yeah, again, I wouldn't put it that high. But
I swear to God, you're fucking like on the same website. That's bizarre, man. Hatchet for the Honeymoon I have like a love-hate relationship with this movie. Is that 3 fucking Bavas in a row? That's crazy.
Yeah, but weird. I would definitely would have.
Yeah, Mario Bava's
his best one is
destroying.
What's his other one that came out that year?
It like just destroying this top 10 right now. But Hatchet for the Honeymoon, I've always liked it, but I always feel like I want more from it every time I watch Hatchet.
I liked it more the last time I watched it.
Yeah.
What's the other film that came out that same year that he did?
In 1970?
Yeah. Kill Baby Kill?
Was it Kill Baby Kill 1970?
No,
was
that
60?
No, that would have been like 60. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Kill Baby Kill is a fucking great movie, man. That's a good one. I can't remember. Anyways, top 5. Number 5.
$5 of August Moon. I like that
that's
one.
A cool movie too.
The Agatha Christie story. The 10 Little Engines.
I like that one more than Hatchet for the Honeymoon, I think.
We could do probably a whole month of Italian versions of Agatha Christie's 10 Little Indians. There is so many fucking movies, Italian versions of that story.
Like, what we're doing next year, right?
There's so fucking many of them, dude. It's incredibly outrageous how many of that story has been done in Italian cinema. It's crazy. What's that?
We're doing the zombie franchise.
Oh, that'll be so much fun. Yes.
Because it's the year 10. Do something different.
Right. Well, we've done zombie before, right? Like
we've done zombie, yeah, but we haven't done 3 and 4 and
5, which is Killing Birds, which is oddly named Killing Birds.
Right, yeah.
So bizarre.
So
but yeah,
I figure we could do that.
Yeah, fuck, for sure, man, for sure. you know my stance on that zombie franchise, man. I could like part 3 is so fucking fun, man. It's incredible,
dude.
fun.
Part 3, I saw part 3 at the drive-in a couple years ago, and it's so fun, dude. It was like the highlight of that whole, out of all like 9 movies we saw or whatever, it was like the highlight.
Dude, I used to use the theme from Zombie 3 in like all my videos. People are like, what is that? I'm like, it's Zombie 3. I actually have the vinyl for the soundtrack, man. I love that fucking score. And people are always like, man, it's not even a Fulci film. It's a Bruno Mattei film. I'm like, no. Bruno Mattei's been on record saying that he only shot some of the action sequences in that film. He said that's like 80% fucking Fulci's movie. He stepped in while he was sick and stuff, right? And shot some of those sequences. But he's like, no, that's a fucking Fulci film. So, and that's on record. Number 4, which is mentioned earlier, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, also known as The Evil Eye. I believe Kino actually put it out as The Evil Eye a few years back.
They did.
And then Arrow put out the Blu-ray of The Girl Who Knew Too Much under that title and stuff. So, but yeah, really good film. Really good film. Cinematography in that movie, it's black and white. It's great. Really good stuff. Number 3, interesting. Terror at the Opera, aka Opera. Argento from 87.
It's pretty high.
One of my favorites ever. So
it literally drives me fucking nuts because you guys know how I have like an eye phobia too. And it's ironic, right? Because like Fulci's my favorite director and he's got this thing where he mutilates eyes all the fucking time in his movies. And then this movie, man, I remember watching this for the first time probably back in the 90s. And I was so terrified of the fucking eye shit in this movie. I was like, I couldn't even watch it, dude. You know, like I felt like a little girl with a skin knee and shit. I was like, fucking like, I couldn't handle it, dude. Like just having those things propped up against your, like, it was giving me nightmares, dude. I can't handle that shit, man. I truly have an eye phobia along with feet phobia. 100%. Oh, for fuck's sakes. You gotta be shitting a brother. Number 2.
The Church.
Close. It's actually close considering not in proximity of films, but conversation wise, Suspiria, 1977.
Oh, come on.
Are you fucking dude? What?
It's like, not a fucking Giallo.
It's not even fucking close to a Giallo.
Dude, I've heard people say this bullshit argument. The detective is you. Shut the fuck up. Come on.
Dude, come on, bro.
You're the detective in Suspiria.
Okay,
yourself.
I'm reading the fucking. I haven't read any of the write-ups on here, but I just started kind of reading this one. It says, the king of Italian horror, Dario Argento, directs what many consider to be his masterpiece. Suspiria is one of the most important and influential genre movies ever made, an essential viewing for all horror fans. Argento's first major non-Giallo directing job doesn't stray too far from the style he established in previous films like Deep Red, but Suspiria's overall charm resists in his technical triumphs and visual style, and not much in its story or surprise twist. What the really? It just says non-Giallo directing job. And it's number 2 on the 27 best Giallo list. And
when was this article written?
Oh my god! Okay, I'll do number 1 and I'll find one.
This is AI.
Deep Red.
Number 1 is Deep Red, yeah obviously from Argento. But now that is just so convoluted, man. Like that is so contradictory. How can you have Suspiria at number 2 on a 27 best Giallo list and literally have it written in there non-Giallo directing job?
Jesus Christ! Didn't even check his work.
That is mind blowing. There's
definitely a few snubs.
That's an AI written article, man.
That's like the new saying, right? I've heard so many people say that recently. Like, man, AI wrote
because it's
shit.
true. That's what they're using. A lot of these places are doing that, dude. It's crazy. It's scary. But there's some stuff missing, obviously. I mean, you put 4 Flies on there, but not Bird with the Crystal Plumage or Cat o' Nine Tails.
What stuck out? I didn't even notice that one, but yeah, Bird is that's an oversight. They had Trauma on there too. What the fuck?
Was Bird not on there?
What?
No, Bird was not on there.
How is Bird with the Crystal Plumage not on? Like that's one of the
Trauma is.
No, Bird with the Crystal Plumage is number 5.
Oh, okay, we missed that.
I must have missed that. Then.
I was like, I thought I just said that. Like, what the fuck? You guys had me tripping out there for a second. Yeah, so pretty much all of like Argento's films made. So
which is fine, but like I also like some of the stuff they picked in like the later half. I don't know. I think the 2 that first stick out to me Or What Have You Done to Solange? Now being
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
That is a
And
great one.
this one might be my personal preference, but I'm really high on the Red Queen kills 7 times.
I like that one too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great movie, man. I always like the story about that shit too. I was like searching around on the internet and I'm like trying to find this movie and I found like this German DVD of it. And I'm like, oh, finally found this, this movie I've been looking for forever and shit like that. It was the fucking next day. Arrow announces the fucking Blu-ray. I'm like, what the seriously? So I got this fucking thing in, and then like a few weeks later, I ended up getting this. I'm like, you got to be shitting me, man! It's so stupid,
dude. So that's like I remember me, you, and Jeremy used to like do the like Skype nights or whatever, where we'd just hang out and talk before the podcast was a thing. And I remember you guys were looking at like a DVD copy from like Germany of like Society or something. And I was like, dude, it'll probably just get released. And Jeremy's like, they're never going to release that movie. Like it's that nobody's going to put that out. And I was like, I don't know, dude. I feel like everything gets released except for Clown House. And then like literally like a couple months later, Arrow announces Society as their like first US title.
Yeah. And that really interesting packaging too. It's good stuff. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, nowadays, back in those days when I didn't really consider the golden age of collecting, but nowadays we're like in the midst of a golden age because we're getting
dude.
Fucking
we're
everything.
like over stuff now.
It's
the
so
only
crazy.
people that were putting out stuff consistently back then was Arrow and Scream Factory. Like Vinegar Syndrome wasn't even a thing. Severin wasn't even really doing much. Like their lineup was.
You still had Synapse, who like have always just like had.
Yeah,
like,
but at that time, Synapse and Blue Underground had fallen off significantly.
Yeah,
they were there for like the Anchor Bay era
releases.
Yeah, but at least we still had a lot of those films through the Anchor Bay / kind of Blue Underground and stuff like that. Like there was still a really good catalog of films through that.
We're so spoiled now, like literally fucking.
But even people seem to forget about Shriek Show. Like Shriek Show put out so much goodness Italian films and shit like that, and like they had a really good catalog. They were kind of like the cheaper version of like Code Red. Code Red would put out all that shit too, but Shriek Show put out a ton of shit. Like they were, I think the first edition that I ever had of like Zombie was like a Shriek Show edition and stuff like that and shit like that. So, it was probably Anchor Bay. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, Shriek Show put out a lot of good stuff. I remember when they dropped Flesh Eater, and I was like, yeah, that fucking movie's amazing. Now we got like a fucking, like, who would ever thought that we get a 4K of Flesh Eater? Like, really? It just blows my fucking mind, man. So, but anyways, that is the top 27 best Giallo films, which I would say there was at least 25 Giallo films in there. There's a couple that definitely were not Giallos. But
I feel vindicated that there's literally an article on the Suspiria entry that said this isn't a Giallo.
Okay, so I just found the date on it. It says by Ricky D, not the MC, Slick Rick, MC Ricky D, on October 11th, 2021. So this thing's only like 2 years old.
Fucking idiot.
You know what I would put in there now?
That is so goddamn funny, dude. We're sitting here harping on
modern
stage
Giallo. I think Knife plus Heart deserves to be on the list.
It's a good movie.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good one, man. I liked it.
I showed that to my girlfriend and it made her cry. And for some reason, we thought it was a good idea to like show that to like 2 more people, like people that just never watch movies like that. We're like, we really love this movie, but we just make them watch it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that actually made my top 10. Was it last year?
That was like 2019
or whenever it was available for our list, because I know it came out and then it got its wide release. It got its wide release.
It was the same year as The Lighthouse because it was my number 1 from that year. And if I were to redo that list, it would not be my number 1. But it would
I think that was 19. Dude,
it was. It was definitely The Lighthouse.
Well, The Lighthouse was my favorite, but Knife Plus that was on my top 10. But yeah, Lighthouse was. I don't even think it was a question that year for me. The Lighthouse
would be my number 1 now, no question.
Yeah, that movie's amazing. Good shit.
I don't remember what mine was. Golden Glove?
Oh, is that the year of the Golden Glove? I still don't have a copy of that. And we need a fucking release of that shit, man.
There is a release. It's the company that put out it's like Strand. That's who it is. The company that just put out Doom Generation.
Is it?
Put a release of it out.
It's a Region 1 one?
I believe so. Yeah, it's like Strand releasing or something. They do like a lot of like kind of like real like cultish films like that, Uncle Boone Me, shit like that.
Interesting. Maybe I just gave up looking for it or something like that.
They're like they don't like really have sales and like they don't put out a ton of stuff. So and they're not like flashy looking at all either. So it's kind of a label that like gets like under the radar.
Oh, this is like what the fuck? It's got like a crazy weird slipcover to it. What the fuck is this? Yeah, I haven't have you seen it's like a black and white slipcover on it?
I haven't seen it. I remember just one day I was like, oh, who's this? Like when they announced Doom Generation, I think I said something like, oh, I kind of wish it was a different label, and somebody got mad at me and I looked at their catalog and I noticed Golden Gloves was on it.
Huh. Oh, this one says Region 2. That's what I'm saying on this one.
Maybe they're not based out of here. I know the Doom Generation.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Region 1.
It says subtitles French. What the fuck?
Oh, they have all the Gregoraki movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen this version of it. It's crazy. Interesting. Okay. Anyways, Golden Glove. Yeah, that's a greasy fucking movie, man.
Yeah, dude.
Super greasy, man. I loved it. It was good.
Fan.
Yeah, that was one of those shocking. It was almost like a fucking landmine goes click moment too. I was like, really? I kind of figured you liked the movie, but to put it as your favorite, I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
It was a little shocking, to be honest.
I didn't know these guys put out Mysterious Skin on Blu-ray too. I got to pick that up. Oh man,
Mysterious Skin, man, that is one fucking wild movie, man. I remember renting that when it first came out and just being like, what the fuck, man? That
movie's so dark. That was probably, I think that's my favorite movie I've seen for the first time this year.
Because I used to go to the movie store and I always used to rent all the kind of the foreign or import, the indie section. They had an indie section and then they had a foreign section. And then they had some of the staff picks and stuff. And there was this one dude that worked in this Rogers or whatever that I used to go to all the time. And he had really good taste in movies. And he actually had Mysterious Skin in his weekly pick. And he's like, yeah, you got to check this out. It's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah, that's such a sick recommendation. I was like, if somebody gave me that recommendation, be like, give me another movie. That was awesome.
Yeah, dude. And well, like I said, this guy always had good picks. He actually was a film fan, right? He knew what the fuck he was talking about. I remember, I think he actually had Inland Empire as one of his picks. And I actually was going to the video store to rent that one time. Yeah. And wanted to see that. It was right when it first came out. And he's like, yeah, you got you. I was like, yeah, I love Lynch and shit. He's like, yeah, you got this movie's. It's totally bizarre. And I'm like, well,
I've owned that on Blu-ray for 7 months and I still haven't watched it.
I just picked up the Criterion of it actually, just recently, a few months back. I haven't watched the.
Yeah, I got it I think the first sale this year in March or something. But yeah, I haven't watched it. It's just when I go to when you have time for a 3-hour movie, there's just so many 3-hour movies I want to watch that it's just always in hard competition. Right.
Yeah, it's totally bizarre. The movie's 3 hours, but it actually makes sense when you know the history of how he made that. Like Laura Dern, and they would show up to the fucking set, and he'd be writing the scenes and the dialogue. He was writing the film as they were filming it.
He's a fucking madman. I love David Lynch.
Yeah, and it shows when you watch it because that movie is so fucking bizarre, and it literally has one of the scariest moments I've ever seen in a film. It made me jump through the fucking roof. And I was like,
I see it listed as a horror movie all the time.
It is. I can see it though, because it's so dark and it's so dreary and it's so exhausting and it's bizarre. And there's a million adjectives you could use to describe how it's like a fucking messy nightmare. Right. But you keep thinking about it because you can't make any fucking sense of it. But the imagery is so, it's almost jaw dropping at times. You're just like, what the fuck? What? It's David Lynch at his finest, man, for bizarreness.
I love Lynch so much. He's so good.
Yeah, he's got an interesting mind, that guy. So, but yeah, could you imagine showing up and it's kind of brilliant though too, because if you want this awkwardness out of your actors to perform these scenes that you're writing, write their scenes and not most actors, they have a script and they practice their lines and they go in knowing what they're going to do with these scenes and shit like that. But when you don't have a script and you're just going off what they're writing that day, that's pretty brilliant of Lynch to get that kind of awkwardness out of your actors for sure. And shit, right? Because there's no prep. There's no prep involved. I mean, if you're a method actor or someone that needs that, like you would never want to be on a David Lynch set because like you never know what the fuck's coming. Right? So bizarre. All right. Anyways, yeah, so that's the top 27 Giallos and probably the intro. Do you guys want to get into these movies?
Sure, all right, thing.
All right, so that's going to do it for the intro. We'll be back here with some Luigi Bazzoni films, starting with The Possessed from 1965 here in a second. Yeah.
And now, our feature presentation.
All right, so getting into the featured reviews here on episode 243, week 1 of Italian Horror Month. Luigi Bazzoni director spotlight. Again, starting with 1965's The Possessed. Yeah. All right, quick little synopsis. While visiting his favorite resort town during the off-season, a novelist investigates the apparent suicide of a woman he was once infatuated with. Yeah, that's pretty bang on, I guess, for the synopsis on the film. So like I mentioned earlier, The Possessed is actually one of the earlier examples of like a giallo. You know, this one came out just after, I think I read somewhere it came out just a few months after Blood and Black Lace and stuff. And that one kind of set the bar for what we know is like, you know, what the giallo became and stuff like that. This movie right here is definitely an earlier version, but it kind of combines like multiple genres together. I wouldn't say art house films as a genre per se. I guess it kind of is, I guess. But this one does feel like an art house film mixed with film noir. Not just because it's like fully shot in black and white and stuff like that. It just has that film noir kind of atmosphere and feel to the film and stuff. And it's got like, you know, it's got a little bit of voiceover. Like he kind of narrates the film a little bit. You get to hear his thoughts out loud and stuff like that. Very film noirish and stuff. But it's got a pretty interesting construction to the film because our lead character, who is, like he's a novelist and he's actually there to, you know, get some, you know, R&R and stuff like that. But he is in the midst of writing another piece and stuff like that. And so he basically kind of gets permission in a sense to like to hook up to like, you know, find this girl and stuff like that, because I guess per se he's going through, because he's talking to his wife in the beginning of the film, right? On the phone, and she's saying like, yeah, you need to go see her and stuff like that. It's kind of a weird thing. So I'm assuming like his relationship is on the outskirts with his wife and stuff like that. So that's kind of over, whatever. But it's just a weird scene that you get to see him talking on the phone to his wife, and she's like, yeah, you need to go find her and stuff like that. But then he soon learns that this girl that he was infatuated with is actually dead. And some say that, you know, that she committed suicide. The people in the town, and others say that she was murdered, but she was obviously murdered because she was found with her throat slit from ear to ear and stuff like that. So basically the film is him trying to figure out what exactly happened to her, because like the townspeople are so awkward. They're not really talking. They feel like they're like you get the sense that they're hiding something the entire time. And it just feels like a big kind of conspiracy. Everything is being kiboshed and stuff like that. But the construction of the film is really interesting because our main character, like we see the vantage point of the film, like we see through his eyes, and it makes you question exactly if this is what's really going on in the film, because it's almost like a film inside a film, because throughout the film he has these like nightmares and these kind of daydreams and hallucinations of like what happened to this girl and stuff like that. He's like having these nightmares, like literally dreaming them and stuff like that. So we're getting like that narrative filter throughout the film at the same time. So it kind of plays out like a film inside a film, but the whole movie being shot in black and white, I feel like it just works so well for this type of narrative. I feel like if it was shot in color, it wouldn't have worked as well. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but I feel like the black and white cinematography just adds to this like nightmare.
This one definitely evokes a different feeling from being in black and white.
Yeah, because
I agree with that as well.
I feel like it was done properly because like of his nightmares and his hallucinations of being shot in black and white. It just adds this whole nightmare logic and fuel to the film. I think it's done so beautifully. I really like that aspect. But the whole movie has this dreary nightmare aspect to it, this atmosphere that just like you never fully know if what we're seeing in the film is really going on, because we're seeing it just through this character's eyes because of these flashbacks and stuff. We're not 100% sure. I like that forebodingness of the whole film, and it, like, kind of what to where it goes and stuff like that. Like how, you know, like the characters, and it just it's like a complicated nightmare feel to it. What are your guys' thoughts on the film?
I liked it a lot. Overall, with Bazzoni, I'm very impressed with Luigi Bazzoni overall. I think you can see like a really strong arc in his filmmaking growth in all three of these films. He has a lot of like influences that he blends together, where all these films kind of have like the same underlying themes, but they're all very different. Yeah. He likes to really play with like with reality. He likes to kind of be an unreliable narrator by like almost presenting a puzzle to you. Yeah. He likes to like kind of like frame the movie where your main character is like experiencing some form of self-discovery. And it's just really interesting. It's really atmospheric. All three of these films really felt like you could draw a lot of parallels to something like Vertigo, where it was just like this, like almost like Odyssey. It's almost as Odyssey the character always had to go through, where they had to like piece together something and like recall things. Yeah, it's just so dreamlike. They were all just very, very good movies, and I was really impressed with the different vibe we got for this one. I almost even felt like there was some influence from like something more almost like Bergmanian. Like there's like something like Hour of the Wolf, where he's like there's a lot of just like quiet like recalling and thinking to like this ultimate like terrible discovery that he has later on in the movie, where he has to admit something to himself to figure everything out. Like, I was really impressed with this movie, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I think that I like the whole vibe of it. You know, you have the hotel, which is, you know, gives it a certain atmosphere, in the lake. Any film that has like a hotel scene's always like I fucks with, because obviously that's been what I've been doing for the last like 10 years. I
feel like there's so many of these giallos that have this type of setting where, you know, a character goes to like a small little lakeside, you know, town, and, you know, it goes in, you know, like an older hotel and shit like that. But these kind of seaside shore lake towns and stuff. I love these settings, man, because I love the small town setting versus like a big city type of thing. It always gives it that better. It works perfect if you're trying to develop like a nightmare atmosphere to it. Yeah, it works so great in that setting. But
yeah, this really felt like Nightmare Hitchcock to me. That's why I think I keep like gravitating.
Yeah, I definitely got a Hitchcockian vibe from it.
I love that, but you were bang on with, you know, our main character here, and like the narrative is he's kind of like an unreliable like teller of the narrative because of like his visions and stuff. Like, you're not sure exactly, because this is his idea of what's going on too, right? Like, that's that we're being portrayed as the watcher. And I really like that idea of because as the viewer, you're constantly questioning what's going on in the reality, but these dreams, like, is this actually what's happening and stuff like that? Like, I love that contrast.
And they show you like things as they're happening like in different timelines, but they don't tell you that. It's like a puzzle. It's really neat.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Like, I like the whole memory recall thing, but it's not even that. It's like, it's almost like he's having these visions because there's no plausible way that he could actually know or see this shit for real. Right. So that's why you question it. So it's kind of a cool premise, and it's really cool to throw that into the narrative, not just have your straight up like, oh, what happened to this girl? Like, I need to find out by investigating and stuff like that. But you see this whole different vision and world within his nightmares and dreamscapes and hallucinations and stuff. It's really interesting. It's really, really interesting. Like, I'm really surprised that this movie doesn't get mentioned a lot more. And I have mentioned this before because I think I put it on a list one time and I was like, man, this is such a unique film. And I've always really liked this. Well, not always. I've only seen this movie a couple times now in the last few years or whatever. But I think this one really kind of stands out to me. And the first time I watched it, I was kind of taken back by it. I was like, holy shit, I wasn't really expecting, you know, what I saw. But I love the fact that he used like that whole, you mentioned Bergman, and I'm like, that's bang on again right there. That's totally legit right there. And like the whole film noir shit, because I love film noir like a lot. So
me too.
Using those aspects in a type of giallo and just works so well for me, man. I love that shit. Really good blend.
I'm surprised this guy's just not mentioned more often. I've heard this film mentioned before, like very sparingly.
He hasn't really done he hasn't really done much more than
I think that's his downfall, because like I was really interested, like, wow, what else has this guy made? And I looked up his filmography and he's made like 2 more movies.
I know, it's weird, right?
Yeah,
it's so strange. Like how you can have these 3 type of films in your filmography and not really do much after. Like,
and you can see the growth in all these movies, and like for this to be your first movie where you're working with like such a limited price, like there's like this movie must have been so cheap to make. All he needed was like the hotel, the cinematography, and all these movies is so good.
Yeah,
the scores are all good. Like they all have like their own like unique stamp on it.
Right. So what did you guys? I mean. Again, talking about giallos and stuff, and I really don't want to give too much away from especially this film, because I feel like this one hasn't been seen overly that much. I really don't want to ruin it for people. But I feel like this movie, and you know, going back to the title, like, well, not going back to it, I was thinking about this earlier, but I feel like this movie might not have been seen as much because of the title, like The Possessed.
I agree. The title's awful.
It's very misleading.
What the fuck does it even mean?
I don't know.
Like I don't like. That's what I was trying to like.
I mean, possessed. Maybe he's possessed by like infatuation or something.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be maybe like
it should
almost
be
like a pejorative
obsessed
to the characters.
I know. I don't understand the title. Like it's so misleading.
If it was called The Obsessed, I would be like, okay.
I mean, there is a movie called Obsession, but I mean,
this was before they were just naming these like random movies. Like if it's like was made like
there's also a movie called Possession.
Yeah, but The Possessed sounds like it's going to be a totally different movie. Like you would never associate a giallo,
and I would be much less interested in watching a movie called The Possessed that I thought was actually going to be about.
I'm saying, and I won't, and just put it this way: like when Arrow announces, like I had no idea what the fuck it was, and you know, like when the sales roll around, like I always like when there's movies that get announced and shit, I'm like, okay, well, I'll pick that one up on release day, but like the other 6 or whatever, I'll just wait for sale days. Like that's why I always wait for the Arrow sales. This was totally like a sale thing. Like when this one goes down to like £8 or whatever, I'll grab it. I don't really know it. I know it's Italian. I'll check it out, but I'm not really interested in seeing a possession movie from 1965. That was like my mentality with this film. And then looking into it, I'm like, oh, this is like supposed to be giallo and shit like that. And then I'm watching, I was like, what the fuck is with the title?
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like no one's checking this movie out because the title is so misleading. It doesn't even make a lick of sense to me. I can't figure it out. So, but yeah, titles can be very important, right? Because as much as you don't want to be judging films just by like artwork and titles and shit, we're all victims of it. We fucking do it.
It just sounds like such a generic, like it's just generic, uninteresting title.
Yeah, well, like modern films, like if there's a movie called The Possession of fucking Sally Jane, I'm not watching it, bro. Like I'm simply not fucking. Remember I made that joke about like there's a movie called The Possession of insert someone's name, right?
Yeah.
I'm just not watching that shit, bro. Like I'm not doing it. So be careful what you name your shit and stop naming your shit Dark Harvest. Fucking lame.
I will not watch another Dark Harvest. I'm Dark Harvested out.
Oh,
I think the most interesting thing about this movie to me is like, for me, I expected it to go like sort of one way where like more of like a standard, like, okay, this guy moves into this hotel for 30 days or whatever, 20 or 30 days. And he remembers this chick that used to be there. And, you know, that's kind of why he wanted to go back. And then he basically solves her murder, but that's not what it is at all. You know what I mean? It's like you start to see his obsession with the idea of this woman and the brief interaction, if any at all, that he had with her, you know, the unreliable narrator type thing that happens with him. And then
that's also a good point. That's a really good point, because he clearly says that, like, you know, they didn't really have like a physical relationship. They didn't really know each other that well. And that's what makes it even more interesting that he's like almost obsessed with her.
Oh, he's completely, but he's not obsessed with just her, like who she is. He's actually obsessed with the idea of her, right? Not actually her, because he has this grandiose idea of like who she is. And then as the film goes, you know, unfolds, you find out that she's nothing like how he probably interpreted her.
Right.
You know, she's a bit of a slut, and, you know, it's actually very interesting, like character study of this guy who is weirdly obsessed with this girl who,
and like,
who was pregnant. She was pregnant when she got killed too. Right. And that plays into the narrative too. Like she was fucking obviously a bunch of people and shit. Yeah. Like where this one goes, like, are you guys happy with the reveal in this film, or What do you think
I think
of it?
that was the worst part to me, but it wasn't like something that like ruined the movie. And it was
it
like
has to go some. At least they give you something, but I'm kind of like, okay, but like, we've had this conversation before too, JP. It's like, it's like the whole Friday the 13th thing. Like the killer could have been fucking anybody, right? And you get this reveal in this film, and sometimes I feel like, when we're not really introduced to a character and then they're thrown in the mix into this shit, it's like, it just seems, it always feels like it comes out of left field to me. It feels like it's kind of, it feels a little messy to me. It feels a little bit messy. I know they have to come up with something and stuff like that. And this one actually kind of has a contrast to like even the fifth chord, like the way the reveal is kind of thing. But I don't know, man. I feel like it's a little bit weak in itself. Like the whole movie is so good, and then you find out like exactly what's going on. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, this is like a movie where I can almost forgive it a little bit more, because even though the ending was kind of like all right and like kind of weak, like I can kind of forgive it a little more, because I think like I just felt like the movie was more of like a meditative, just like piece on like self-discovery, and then like it kind of like meant something at the end when like it's ultimately like everything was still a mystery, and he has to go back to his old life now and like write some book, and he still never really knows. And like I think it's supposed to be like just trying to like almost like drag that feeling out of you of just like a little bit of dread and like loneliness.
Right.
Yeah, pretty interesting movie though.
What did you think? What did you think at the end or the reveal?
About the same. I think that the what I took from it was more like it was less about like what actually happened and more about like the dude's journey to figuring out not even what happened, but just learning. Like it's more the audience's journey to learning about this dude and like his sort of process of being involved with it. It's so weird because there's really nothing there. There's no real reason that he's obsessed with her other than he saw her and kind of stalked her actually. Yeah. And it makes him seem like crazy, like and weird, you know?
I mean, I feel like at least I've definitely came across some people like this in my life. Like, you ever came across like a guy that's usually not great socially with women?
Yeah, he's the type of guy that goes to a strip club and thinks that the girl really likes.
Yeah, and like the kind of guy that like they invent a version of a girl they like in their head that's nothing actually like them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, dude, I literally knew a dude in high school who we went to a strip club, or I actually didn't even go, but I remember my friends tell me that like the dude like literally like thought this girl was like into him. She's like, no, you like seriously, dude. And he was like dead serious, and it's like, bro, you are fucking nuts, man.
It's it's tough for some people to like just like to draw that reality, and there are people that just get so caught up in things, especially now. I think with like how prominent online dating is, where people just like invent versions of people in their own head that are just their perfect version of someone,
right?
And just like run with that, like this is who that person is, and like that's something like this guy kind of did in this movie, and that's why like all these reveals when he like learns stuff about her is like so much more impactful.
Yeah, there was like I watch a lot of like true crime like interrogation videos and shit on YouTube, and there was this dude who was like obsessed with a WWE like wrestler, like female wrestler, and he like broke into her house and stuff like that, and the entire interview is like him saying like, you know, like the cop reading like messages that he sent to her like on Instagram that she never even seen, that's like, you know, like if you like, because she was a lesbian, and he's all, if you know, got with me, you would be straight and stuff. Like all this stuff, you know what I mean?
What the fuck, dude?
And like the dude was completely obsessed with her, and she never even knew he existed, yet he in his own head thought that they had this like relationship that he was like for, like it was just bizarre as hell that people are like this. And there was even like another one that I saw where well, even the police say like, have you had any like serious relationships? And he's like, well, I have, but like most of them, it turned out that all the girl wanted was like my money. It was just like online people that he was dating. It's just like there's some sad motherfuckers out there.
It's just it's scary though, man, because there's this certain people in the world that kind of live in their own reality, right? That's a great example of someone that just lives in their own little world.
There's different groups of people I know, like
they're so disconnected with reality. It's like, it's a great example of someone that's just so disconnected with reality and what it really stands for and shit, that you're living in your own world and you're making shit up. Like, it's fucking scary. Like, that's how people do crazy fucking things too, right? When you live in this little fucking world, and man, I mean,
I definitely know some people in pockets of the internet where they have little pools of like their own reality. It's like, it's kind of alarming.
Yeah, there was this one dude another case where he was dating this, well, in his head, he was dating, it was just such a loser guy, but he was dating this like Romanian OnlyFans model or something like that. And he literally gave her like $20,000 of his own like money, and then like literally like stole like another 20,000 from his parents.
Oh my God,
to give to her and stuff. And he was so obsessed with her. And then like his parents basically like sent him to like a mental thing to like repair him or something. And then he murdered them both, like his mom.
Holy shit.
And like, then the first thing he did after he murdered him was he went to like a Walmart parking lot and like sent her money for like a live chat and to like talk to her and stuff. It just fucking nuts,
dude. Obsession is like, is a total, man. It's a real sickness, man. It's crazy. It's fucking scary, man. It's fucking scary. But I almost feel bad, like, for our main character here, like Bernard, like when he starts to find out that like she's not like who he pictured her as, or maybe how he wanted her to be, in a sense, you know, like again, you know, he's living in his own little world and he's kind of picturing, oh, she's like the perfect girl, like she's not doing this shit. But in reality, she was kind of a fucking slut, right? And, you know, I mean, I kind of feel bad for him in a sense, because it's like, dude, like, you know, she could have been that, but she wasn't. You know, I don't know, man. Sometimes
it's just weird to me, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, she just turns out to be, I mean, but I mean, I'm glad that it went that way though too, because it adds a little bit more flavor to the film too. Like, she wasn't this perfect little diva, and you know, the girl next door and shit like that. And
it's what makes the film interesting.
It spirals. It spirals, and I like a lot of the side characters in this film. Like, the cast isn't like very recognizable, but I think everyone does a really good job at like kind of selling their roles and keeping this whole kind of like noir feel and this mystery and like almost like a cover up throughout the whole film and stuff like that. Like, people don't really want to talk about it, but that's very typical kind of small town mentality too. It's like, you know, you fart in a small town, everyone fucking knows about it 2 minutes later kind of thing, right? So I mean, you start getting people pregnant and all that type of shit. Like, you don't want that shit out. So no, I mean, it makes a lot more sense not to reveal your cards and shit like that. So if you don't want the whole world knowing in 5 minutes, but this movie I think is really great. I'm a little bit, like I said, indifferent on the ending, but it doesn't really overall hurt the film. It's so beautiful. The cinematography is so beautiful in this film. The setting's great. The music's really good too. It's very fitting for it. But the editing and like the way it's shot, it's the dark scenes are shot so perfect in this film. Like, there's a scene where he's inside, I think one of the hotel rooms. They turn the light off, and it's the way it's lit. It's so perfect. I don't know if it's just a transfer on the Blu-ray or whatever, but man, some of those darker scenes are shot. And like, you know, older black and white films, like darker scenes can be harder to see kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not in this one, man. They're lit perfectly. Like, really, really good job, you know, for what I would probably consider to be a lower budget film. I mean, there's no real big effects in this film. It's not a big cast.
I felt like this guy really had a limited budget and did a lot with what he had.
Yeah. There's a great example of a small budget with a big result. You know, and but I think
so. You watched the Blu-ray of this?
Yeah, I watched the Blu-ray of it also.
I watched it on. This was weird. I was like looking for it to watch online because I didn't own it, and I went to this like subscription service called Midnight Pulp. Have you heard of this?
No. I've not.
Me neither, man. But the funny thing about it has like the exact same app layout as Screenbox. Like it feels like it's like
just a second Screenbox.
Yeah, like that's what it feels like. Like I wouldn't be surprised if it was like owned by the same person because it's like the exact same app layout, but it's one of those. It's a paid subscription, but also they have like titles on there that you can watch with ads, which that's how I watched it. It was available with ads. It was in Italian. The other two movies I watched were in English.
So this one I changed. I think. Well,
this one was actually shot in English. Like the main character is actually speaking English. Like if you watch his mouth and shit, like it's.
I just picked the English version.
Well, apparently, from what I was reading online, some of the dialogue changes with the
different version,
and stuff like that.
The way it's translated,
Italian versus English,
yeah. I kind of saw that too, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But I mean, I've seen that in other films too, where it doesn't translate. The translation on the Italian was so different than the English translation. I'm like, okay,
it's like that in a lot of Hong Kong movies because, like, it's kind of almost like it's almost like part of the flavor for me though to watch like the English dubs of like these like 70s Shaw Brother movies.
Yeah, I was watching. I can't remember what movie it was. It was like a Hong Kong film not too long ago. And I was watching it. It was actually in English. I think it was dubbed. I think it was the only way you could watch it. But I was watching with the subtitles on, and the translation on the subtitles was like nowhere near what they were saying.
They never match. Like it was so funny. Say the same thing, but they're not even close.
Dude, I was laughing out loud. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, if you were just watching this, reading the subtitles, you're like, it's like a different movie, man.
Yeah,
it's so funny to me. It's crazy. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about The Possessed without just revealing the whole damn film, but I give it a really high recommendation. It's a really good film. Definitely need to check it out. So do some ratings. Saucedo, when you go, what do you
I'm feeling generous. This is a good movie. The ending's a little bit of a flub, but I don't think it really like ruins anything, and it still has a good point to it. It's really atmospheric, really good, really impressive first effort. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Wow. JP?
I'm at the same rating with Tyler there. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Well, I'm going to come in at a 9 on this one because that's what I rated it before, and I'm going to stick to it. I think it's a great film. It's just really good overall. But yeah, so The Possessed from 1965.
42 shots.
All right, so moving along into the second film from 1971, we have The Fifth Chord, starring the one and only Franco Nero, and the beautiful Silvia Monti, man. Oh, there's something about her, man. I've seen her in a couple. I think she's in. She in a Woman in Lizards, a Lizard and Woman's. Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she is. She's the girl that plays opposite of Florinda Balkan.
Right. Flinder Balkan, and we'll be talking about her too. Yeah, she was also in that film.
I can't wait to talk about her.
But yeah, dude, Silvia Monti, she's so beautiful, man. There's something about her eyes, man. As soon as I was like, oh shit, I forgot that she was in this fucking movie, man. It's great stuff. Great stuff. Quick little synopsis here. A maverick, heavy drinking journalist pursues a killer who is targeting acquaintances of his, prompting the police to brand him as a suspect in their investigation. So yeah, that's pretty bang on. Franco Nero plays a investigative journalist who has an obvious drinking problem. And I will say, man, he plays a drunk really well. There's something about Nero when he plays a drunk. Like I think he's done this in other films too, where he plays kind of a heavy drinker or whatever, but he sells it well. Like I swear he was method acting and he was actually shit-faced in this, but I could be wrong too. But yeah, The Fifth Chord, was this a first time watch for you guys?
Yep.
This was a second time watch. Okay. I didn't remember basically anything about it. It was probably around 4 years ago when I first watched it, but I remember I liked it a lot.
Man, I realized I don't think I'd watched my Blu-ray because I have the Arrow Blu-ray. And I think the last time I watched The Fifth Chord was on the fucking Blue Underground DVD that I got like 10 years ago. Wow. I'm watching this movie going, I can't remember where this goes. So when the reveal happened in this film, I was like, oh shit, now I completely didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. Both
Like I
this
completely
and The Possessed I've seen before, and like they were both like new movies.
Yeah, I remember The Possessed a lot more than this. It'd been a long time since I'd watched The Fifth Chord. I just realized, like, I didn't have it logged, and I've been on Letterboxd since 2018, so I hadn't watched it like at least last 5 years. So I'm thinking probably when I grabbed the Blue Underground DVD, like fucking 10 years ago, kind of thing. So yeah, I've been a bit, but yeah. What's your guys' thoughts on the JP? What's your thoughts on The Fifth Chord? First time watch.
Oh man, I thought it was pretty good. First of all, I think that the camera work is fucking great in this movie. There's some really good shots. Even right at the beginning with in the tunnel, and then there's a shot under the camera, like kind of follows the character who's walking and goes like under the staircase. That just looks great. Mm-hmm. The score, I like some of the score and like the music that sort of like, I don't know, it's just like Italian-y, like woman choir type thing. I love that stuff.
It's actually one of my, honestly, I'm not the hugest fan of the score in this movie. Like,
really?
Yeah, it's funny because some of the pieces in this film remind me of like porn. Like it sounds like porn music.
I like it.
Yeah, like I don't really specifically love the score, but I felt like it really like fit, and it kind of like felt sleazy.
That's why I've always liked those type of scores.
Yeah, they're not my favorites.
In that opening scene in the tunnel, you go to the tunnel, and just the way it's lit, and you just like go around this like dingy room with all these people, it just it's so mood setting. I was so on board from like the voiceover at the beginning, and then leading into this like photography. It just like
I love the
feels
voiceovers,
a lot
man.
like this movie. You get like it feels like a lot of the same concepts as Possessed, but it's just like it's grown upon, and it's like
the Possessed shares a lot more with Footprints on the Moon.
Oh, I agree.
But
I feel like that's almost a remake.
But again, like the Possessed is like, it has the voiceovers in that, and this one starts with a voiceover. Like there's all these contrasts between these films. Like you can tell it's a Bazzoni film, right? It's just he's got kind of a stamp on it and stuff. But yeah. So, anyways, JP, go on.
Yeah, and I like there's some good like stalking POV type camera work there too. I think of like the one in like on the like walking trail or wherever that was in the like forest. The lead is it's pretty nuts. Franco Nero, which wasn't he in the Pope's Exorcist?
He plays the actual Pope. Remember, I didn't know that he was in the film, and then I'm watching. I'm like, Franco Nero plays the Pope. I'm like, of course he plays the fucking Pope. That's amazing. Like, who else are you going to get to play the fucking Pope? And nowadays is Franco Nero. That's great casting. So
yeah, I mean, this is like the Giallo. Like this is a Giallo film. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's a good one.
I've never seen it before.
Yeah, it's a really good film, man. Yeah, like you're right though. Like the cinematography, the tunnel scene is really great. Even like the panning through the club in the beginning with the credits and stuff is really cool. Mm-hmm. But
they're like sets too. They're just like that clean, like stylistic, like 70s aesthetic, and I just fucking love that.
Yeah, it's crazy how different this movie feels and looks than The Possessed, and it's like 6 years later. Yeah, right? It's like you can tell it's
completely different.
You can tell it's like the 70s. Like Franco Nero just looks like that typical 70s. He's got those fucking big choppers on the side and shit, and he's like all drinking heavy and shit, and like just the characters that just scream 70s like so much. But I actually really like, like the plot in this film, like the way he figures out like the killer and stuff. Like, all the killings are happening on Tuesdays, and he goes to the whole Aries thing. I think there's a lot of cool things within that, man. I think it's a great performance from Franco Nero too, man. He really sells
it. He's a very strong lead in this.
Yeah, dude. Like,
he fucking smacks the shit out of his chick too.
Oh, he carries this film like for a movie, like that's kind of what separates some of these giallos. Is like you need like a strong, interesting main character like Franco Nero that like to really carry like the structure of the film.
The one thing about this film that I wish there was a little bit like the actual kills. Most like some of the kills are even off screen in this. It's not very violent. Like there's 4 or 5 kills in the movie, of course.
Yeah, this movie is not very violent, but I would say this movie is a lot more mysterious and a lot more like cinematically tense than most Giallo.
Right.
I think that you have honestly the one where the chick gets thrown over the railing of the stairs.
Dude, I wrote in my notes, I said, man, that thing looked like it fucking hurt for real, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that person, whoever did that stunt, would got up right away, man. Like, that shit looked fucking...
That's what I'm saying.
Because they shot that and there's no cuts. Like, that person fucking nailed the ground. Yeah. I was like, damn, dude, that had to have fucked their back and ribs up, man. Yeah, it's nasty.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was you had and then I think there was wasn't there the chick that was at the fire under the bridge. That was cool location too for a
totally
scene.
And that was probably the most visceral and like graphic vivid kill in the film was her, because the killer comes up behind her and actually slits her throat.
Yeah, I think since you really don't see that throughout the film, it catches you and like has more of an effect than a normal.
It actually does, and I actually wrote that down. I said the one kill that you actually get to see, straight up was more effective because they didn't really show the other stuff. Like it was more implied, like the drowning, which is always not very exciting to see on a film, anyways, or whatever. Kill in the bathtub, like there was no blood; it was more of a drowning kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, I think it made it a lot more effective. And like, man, and she had a fucking rager going. Like, that fire was huge, and she's still putting more wood on the damn thing. I was like, shit, I know.
I was like, damn, bro. You got a bonfire going down there.
It's the right place too. Like, you got that huge cinder thing right there. I mean, the fire wasn't going to spread. She was
probably wicked cold, and it was just keeping the crew warm. So like,
totally, it probably was too, man. It was actually the fire that they just put into the film. They're like, oh fuck, man, we're cold as shit down here.
Yeah, and the one dude doesn't even die from a kill.
No, he actually dies technically of a heart attack, right?
Yeah. Always reminds me of Child's Play 3.
But that guy was a
Chucky scares the lieutenant or like the general or whatever, and he fucking falls.
The toy factory. He was the owner, wasn't he? He was the toy owner.
No, it was the dude in the military school.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, in part 3. The general.
And Chucky's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Oh yeah, because he's fucking around. He's playing golf and shit at the beginning of the film. He's drinking a scotch and shit.
Yeah, he just like turns around and just like gives him a heart attack.
Right. That fucking
Chucky's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me,
man. I fucking love Child's Play 3, man.
Me too.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite Child's Play.
I think that's my favorite one too. I think the first one's the best one, but I think this one.
I mean, 2's my favorite, but
dude, I've always said
3, dude, are so fucking fun, man.
Dude, I've always said that the animatronics in part 3 are fucking incredible, man.
Yeah,
like they did such a good job with those animatronics, man. Like, it blows my mind. I know I even mentioned that when we reviewed the film, and I was like, man, it is so good. Even in the original Child's Play, they're really well done. But like part 3, it's nuts the way they shoot it. Like, Chucky's just running around. Like, there's no shooting it from angles where where you kind of have to do that because the shit's not really working properly and stuff. Like, Chucky's like running around, and it's fucking great. They do a good job with that, man. But
I just think I think the live round roulette is like some of the best stuff in the series.
I always said, it's like, I think it's one of the most mean-spirited things they ever did in a film, man. Like, he literally replaced the paintballs with fucking real bullets, dude. That's brutal. And Whitehurst just fucking gets blown up and shit.
Yeah, I always remember thinking that was really mean-spirited.
He was like such a little dork, and they totally annihilated him in the film.
A hero's arc either. It's just like, this is fucking like pointless. Like,
you felt bad for him, man. It's like, oh god,
it was kind of like they killed that guy. Wow.
I know, in like a brutal way too, man. Shit. Yeah. Anyways, back to
think of the ending.
Okay, so I'd mentioned the ending before, and like I've obviously seen this movie before, and I couldn't remember. And then when the reveal happens, and then when you get further into the reveal, I was like, I started laughing. I was like, really? It wasn't.
Dude, I loved it. I think it's so fun. I was giggling the whole time. Like, this is what pissed people off nowadays.
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what? You gotta be shitting me, dude. I don't know. I felt like that was very taboo to do for 1971 though, right? To have that type of thing revealed in 1971, because I mean, let's face it, back in those days, like it's not like 2023. They weren't very polite about shit like that back in 1971. Like, I mean, you barely ever saw shit like that.
Yeah, that was just like.
But to have that in there, like you didn't have to do that, but it's just like, oh shit, they did that. I liked it, man. I actually really liked the ending. I think it's pretty good.
I fuck with it too.
Yeah, and to be honest, like the mystery is incredible because like you would never think, like at least, you know, even seeing this film, I couldn't remember, but I couldn't figure out who the fucking killer was, right? In the film. I think they did a good job with it, man.
I think they did a really good job with it. I think like Franco Nero did a really good job holding it together and being an interesting character to follow around.
But I mean, in reality, you would never guess because of the scene in the tunnel, right?
Right.
Like you would never even consider.
That's why it's like a good.
That's like a big red herring,
sort of red herring thing, you know.
Yeah, right.
I love that scene when he's like discovering the dates and he's got like all the almanacs like across. So he's like, "Well, what's this one on this date?" And he's got like a magnifying glass over all of them.
Dude, I love that shit, man.
Like book to book.
Dude, there was actually the actual opening of this film with the dialogue about like I'm gonna commit murder or something. That was pretty cool too.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Reminded me of Tenebrae.
Yeah. No, this is a pretty good Giallo.
I like how they bring up like, I think it's like one of his bosses, or whatever. He's talking about like him being a conformist and shit like that. That was a big thing in like the 70s. And if you watch a lot of Italian films, like just even crime films and shit, they always talk about like how like conformists were like they were like the evil of the world and shit like that. It's just like such a 70s Italian thing to be.
It just reminds me of the goth kids from South Park.
You know, oh my God, dude. Right. Like it was such a bad thing. You know, like if you called someone a conformist, like in 1971 Italy, like it was, you know, you were the fucking devil kind of thing. Right. So it's just something that I noted because I've seen other like crime films and shit. And they talk about conformists and shit. And it's just like you get executed for that shit. You can't be a conformist. So yeah,
there's literally an Italian movie called
there is actually.
About this.
There actually is. Yeah, you're right. It's released by Raro. Raro put that out.
Yep, great film.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but yeah, it got me. I actually thought of that too when they were talking about being conformist and shit like that. He's calling him a conformist, and I'm like, oh yeah, Franco. He's fucking drunk, dude. He wasn't conforming to anything, man. Fuck.
I love that scene. He's like, he comes back in like the apartment, and it's just that like college chick he's banging. And he's like, "Oh, I thought you found a new position." And she's just like laying on his bed naked.
Right. Man, that was a fucking weird house. Like the design of the house and shit, like where the fireplace was. That shit was bizarre to me, man. Like it has a like open kind of pit like in the middle of the room and shit. Like it was man. Those house designs are bizarre to me, man.
I remember thinking that like in that scene where he's like drunk chasing her around.
Yeah, like I've never seen a fire pit in a house like that. Like it's just so strange to me. Like right in the middle, like it's just like you could have that shit outside. You know what I mean? But it's like in the middle of your fucking living room. It's just so strange. But anyways, but yeah, no, The Fifth Court is a great movie, man. It's a very tantalizing film. Like you get so into it. The thing that sells it for me though, man, is obviously the mystery, and I like the way, you know, it all kind of comes around and the reveal is great in this film, but Franco Nero is he's the man in this film, dude. Like he sells the shit. There's a couple scenes where like he's pretty much in every scene in the film, but there's a couple scenes where he's actually not in it for, you know, a few minutes, but you notice right away, you're like, get back to Franco.
I think this might be one of my favorite Giallo lead performances.
Yeah, he's so good in this, man. Like I said, like I feel like he was method acting in this and he was actually drunk because he's pulling it off so fucking well. Like I don't know what it is, man. Like it's kind of interesting because like they talk about how he's a total drunk and shit like that, but he never like faults due to the being drunk in the film at all. Like he's never vulnerable in those positions and stuff. Like he's a super strong, smart dude. People just see him differently because he drinks too much and shit like that. I like that about his character, man. Like it's part of the factor in the narrative, but it's never a downfall to him either. I like that. They keep the character strong. So, and you can see in his performance too, man. It's great.
Yeah, he's just a really talented actor. He's even like underrated. I think people like know him obviously like as like a genre star, but like I almost like don't think it's almost understated like how real solid of an actor he actually is.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and he's in like I don't know how
He's in
many
a lot of
credits.
stuff.
I don't know how many credits near. I'm actually going to click on it right now. I want to see what his credits are according to IMDb, but it says 229 with
Jesus Christ.
16 upcoming credits.
He's still
16.
just in stuff. He was in John Wick too. Like he's
Who
just
the
like in
fuck?
these big movies. Like we'll just
What
call
the
Franco
fuck?
Nero up because of how like culturally significant he is. That like, oh, we need an old Italian assassin. Let's call Franco Nero to cameo.
Fuck me,
making
man.
a movie
There's
of this character he used to play. Let's call it Franco Nero to do a cameo.
yeah. I love that with Tarantino that he put him in his Django
That's
film.
so sick. Yeah,
That's amazing. And I don't think a lot of people even realized who that dude was when they're watching this film, but like that's fucking Django. That's just so incredible. That's so Tarantino to do that. But there's another movie coming out called Django Lives. It's in production and he's in it. He plays Django. What the
that's
fuck?
so sick. What the hell?
That I don't know what kind of narrative because Franco
Isn't he
Nero's
like
getting pretty
Obi-Wan
old.
Kenobi like coming out and be like, we have handguns now.
Right. Yeah. So 229 with 16 upcoming, man. Franco Nero is pretty fucking old. Like, man, he's getting up there in age, dude. Like, he's not slowing down. He was born in 41.
Wow, he's older than I thought then.
Dude, he's like 82 years old and he's got 16 projects.
I figured he would be like 72, 73, something like that. I didn't think he was that old. Well, I guess, Django came out in what, like 66?
66, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, 25, that sounds right.
Man, I completely had forgot that he was in Die Hard 2 until I just saw it on his credits. I'm like, he was in Die Hard 2. That's fucking insane. So John Wick 2, that's crazy. But Die Hard, that's nuts. Yeah, fucking guy's not slowing down, man. Franco Nero is the man. He's a living legend, dude. Living legend.
Yeah.
Now he's just on borrowed time because I always say if you make it to 80, you're just on borrowed time after that.
You're playing with house money.
Right, like 80, like that's pretty good. And if you make it to 80, that's pretty fucking good. But
no.
So yeah. But the fifth chord ratings, I guess. We always talk about like, Giallo. They're hard to talk about because you don't really want to give too much away, especially with Giallos because it's so easy to ruin them, but
yeah, there's like, for me anyway, about like Giallos, I care almost less about the reveal as I do about just like
the journey.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes it doesn't bother me, and other times I'm just like, I literally laugh out loud. Sometimes, like this one, it was the way they the reveal, and then I thought it was great.
Just the way like these movies are presented, like it doesn't bother me with something's kind of wonky, like in these as much as it would with like a '90s slasher if like something's wicked stupid, because they're just like presented like so like down to earth and serious. Where like these movies, like they're just so like exaggerated, almost in a sense, like sexually and violently and like.
Honestly, this one's better than the average. Like the average Giallo ending is far below.
I think in general, this is just like, I think this is a good little gem. I think there's a lot more of like spotlight, especially among Giallo. Again, like this felt more like, it feels to me like he's very like inspired by Hitchcock films. And he like 100%. Has his own like vision upon it. That's why I say like all three of these films almost feel like Vertigo to me in a different way.
I feel like every Giallo had to have been inspired. Like Hitchcock was so ahead of its time, and like everybody wanted to do those type of things because they're so shocking.
Emulate what they like and like what's inspiring them. It's just
right.
This is like the Italians like answer.
I've always said that though, like Giallos are like an extension of a Hitchcock world, like or film, kind of thing. Like that's exactly what they are. Like those were so mysterious and just like the reveals in those films were so incredibly fucking well done though. Like Hitchcock was just, man, incredible. But yeah, like, I mean, there can be like the one thing about Giallo reveals sometimes that pisses me off is when they reveal something and like they haven't even introduced that character really at all. Or that character was in like one scene for 2 seconds. You're like, how the fuck? Like, really? That always bugs me. But in this movie, it's like the polar opposite. Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, JP.
Rating? This is pretty good Giallo. Honestly, it would definitely make my top 27. Was that what it was? 27 Giallos.
Yeah.
I'd never seen it before, but honestly, I liked it a lot.
It's really good.
It was like honestly, this was the first one I watched of these three too. It was like a great way to start Italian Horror Month. Honestly, I was like, damn, this is and
I think
it
this
looked
is the
good.
first
It
one
was
I
shot
watched,
good.
too.
I give it an 8.
Yeah, no, I can't do that. I have to watch them in sequence.
I didn't even realize the sequence until after I watched them all. I just
Honestly,
followed the list.
I do sometimes, and sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I just like.
Well, I do it from
also,
like I do it.
It
from
matters. Like, good.
Well, I mean, I was just gonna say I do it because of like sometimes growth in filmmaking too. Like if you watch an earlier film, especially if they're like 20 years apart, you say you watch a film from 1970. And then their second film is like 72, and then the other one's like 80. Like, you know, just that growth in filmmaking shit. So like if I watch it, I mean, I'm very symmetrical. Like everything, like I like symmetrical shit. Like it's got to be like that. Like I like to do shit in order and stuff. But like watching film, I've always done that. I got to do
if
that.
I would have paid attention to
and
the years,
I agree with that to an extent as well. But I also kind of find it interesting sometimes when you start with like this film and then you go back to their earlier work, because it adds perspective in like the other way. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh, this is their beginning. Like, let's see how they grew. You know, it still kind of works. It's just different.
But I mean, to be honest, like if you were, you know, just getting into film right now and someone's like, hey, well, you know, watch some Argento films, and you started with Dracula 3D, would you go back and check out some of his other films? Probably not.
I would, just because
I'm just saying, but the average fan wouldn't. They'd be like, fuck, Argento sucks. You know, it's like,
but I mean, that's happened to me a ton of times where I've watched someone's like worst film as the first one I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But the reason I watch these ones out of order per se is because of like availability. Like the Possessed was the hardest one to find.
Yep.
I didn't know how I was going to find it. So this one was on streaming, like Shudder or something, or AMC Plus or something. And that's why it was like the easiest to get to. And then I think Footprints was on Tubi, I think. And then, like AMC I said, Plus, it took actually. Me. I found Midnight Pulp at the very end, which
so you didn't.
I thought I was going to have to rent it.
So you don't own any of these. These all have great releases, like Possessed and Fifth Chord got the beautiful arrows.
You know what? I think I own a one of those old Arrow check discs of the Fifth Chord or the Possessed. Wait, did Arrow put out the Fifth Chord?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I actually have. I think the check disc for both those two. Actually, to be honest, but I got regular Blu-rays, and of course,
I wasn't home when I watched these, so I was like, you know, except for last night.
Or Severn put out Footprints in their box set. Like what's it called, Tyler?
What they did? Like I was looking online for where I could buy that movie. Like
I'm just trying to remember the name of the box set. It's a box set. It's I reviewed Identikit last year, my 31 Days of Horror, and it's a fucking fantastic movie. It's actually a box set based on a book. It's about like it's all female leading roles and stuff like that. It's
Wait, the
what's it called? I can't fucking remember.
No, no way.
I have like Psychotic Women or something.
Psychotic Women.
Yes.
Wait, are you fucking serious?
Yeah, How's the Psychotic Women? Yeah, that's the book,
dude.
That's the book that this box set is
hilarious
based on.
Because
I gotta confirm this. Oh my god, I might literally buy that box set.
It's sitting out in the hallway right now, and I didn't fucking know that movie was in it.
Oh my god, dude. Well, so I've watched two of them. I watched I know our Bats is in that one. I heard that one's really fucking strange, and the other one's really strange too. But I watched Identikit for 31 Days last year with Elizabeth Taylor, and I don't think I've actually ever seen a movie with Elizabeth Taylor in it before, so I was kind of like, whatever.
Oh,
I think I bought that at Wasteland.
God, it does have it in here. Wow, I'm gonna buy this.
Fucking Identikit blew my shitter out, man. It was fucking so good, man. So good. And I understand why Footprints is in this box set, because it's very kind of similar to Identikit. It has this contrast, right? It really does. They're different films, but Identikit is such a fucking, it's like a masterpiece, dude. It's so good.
Dude, you know you have problems whenever you are about to rent a movie
and you actually
own it.
Yeah,
it's almost half off right now too.
That is ridiculous, dude. I did not know that was in that box.
Yeah, the Danza Macabre. That's what I was trying to remember off the beginning. Box set one. I watched the one film. I got to get the second volume here. But yeah,
I'm gonna have to buy this.
The Women in Distress
is so fucking pricey right now.
This is only $57 on Amazon right now.
They are
that's a
releasing these
fair
movies
price.
separately now. Actually, you can get Footprints separate and Identikit. So they obviously.
I'm kind of just willing to try them all, especially if there's an Elizabeth Taylor movie in there.
So yeah, the Identikit was the first. Like I said, I reviewed it and it was fucking phenomenal, man. Like phenomenal. Yeah. Like I was really taken back by it. I was like, I did not know what I was going to get myself into because I've never seen, like, I know Elizabeth Taylor is very famous and this is kind of later in her career and stuff, and I did not know what was getting. Well, not for later, but she was like in mid 40s. But it's like the narrative is so fucking cool, man. It's such a nightmare. It's amazing. I loved it. So
I've actually only seen like 3 movies of Elizabeth Taylor now. I was getting her confused with Joan Crawford.
Oh, fuck Joan Crawford.
Yeah, I was getting her confused with Joan Crawford. No, Elizabeth Taylor, I've only seen in like, she was in like, I've seen like the really popular movies. She's in like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and
oh, I've seen that too. Okay.
She's in that. And it's the one of the James Dean movies, Giant. She's in that. She's really good in that. That's a great movie. I watched that this year.
Oh, she must have been pretty young in that one then.
Yeah, she's like 24 and it's really good. Robert Mitchum's in it. Rock Hudson's in it.
Holy shit, that's a crazy cast.
Young Dennis Hopper's in it. James Dean's in it. It's so good. It's like 3 hours long, but it's incredible.
Rock Hudson. Didn't he die of AIDS?
Yep, he was like one of the first celebrities to like get like AIDS and die. And
yeah, right.
Like because he was like a man's man too.
Yeah, dude, I know. Like I've seen Rock Hudson in tons of movies, man. He's a fucking good actor, man. Yeah, okay. So anyways, I guess is it my rating on the Fifth Chord? Would you give it, JP?
I gave it an 8.
8, okay. So I'm gonna come in at a 9 on the Fifth Chord also. It's fantastic. Saucedo.
I'm also going to stay with my 8. I like this movie a lot. I think this is really a really underrated Giallo and should get a lot more attention than it does.
It's the correct way of putting it, I believe, man. The Fifth Chord is definitely an underrated Giallo. Like, you just don't hear it mentioned when people talk about, well, if you want to say best Giallos. But even when people make like their favorite list and shit, you don't see the Fifth Chord mentioned a whole lot.
Yeah, this movie I've like almost never seen mentioned, and I do remember liking it the first time I saw it, and like I wasn't really expecting it to like it as much as I did this time.
And you know, it's funny too because this movie has been readily available for years. Like Anchor Bay put it out on DVD, obviously Blue Underground, Lustig again. Like it's got many releases. I don't know. Interesting. All right, so that is the Fifth Chord from 1971. All right, so last up, 1975, we have Footprints on the Moon, starring the very unique-looking Florinda Balkan. We got Peter McGeary in this film also. I believe he's a British actor, right? The dude, I've seen him in something. Believe he's British. Yep, he's from the UK. Okay, so I've seen him in others. I can't think of what it is, but anyways. So I had never actually seen Footprints on the Moon before, or AKA Footprints, as Severin released it as Footprints. I passed on this DVD many times. Shameless put it out years ago from the UK under Footprints on the Moon. Because I kept hearing, people just kept telling me it was terrible. Like, they're like, don't even bother with Footprints. It's fucking terrible. And, you know, I had to import it and I just always passed over it. So I'd never actually seen this movie before. So it's my little history with it. But quick little synopsis on it. After being tormented by dreams about astronauts on the moon, a translator visits a deserted seaside town, of course, whose inhabitants know her, although she does not know them. All right. So... Yeah, Florinda Balkan, of course, from Lizard and Woman's Skin. She's actually been in lots of movies. I've seen her in tons of films, man. I know she did this film called House by the Beach, I believe, in the 70s or something like that. That was
she did that. She's in a very famous film called
Flav the Heretic.
Well, that one too. Investigation of a Citizen under above suspicion.
Right.
It's like a police procedural with Gian Viante. I forgot his whole name. He's the guy that plays the villain in the first two Dollars movies.
Why is
it's not really a horror movie? It's like a police procedural.
No, we didn't do that one. Yeah, she was also in Candy from 1968, which is interesting. She was in Machine Gun McCain, which is cool. That's a good movie. A Lizard Woman's Skin, of course. Don't Torture a Duckling. Flavor the Heretic, which is pretty cool. And Last House on the Beach was 78. It's just like I think it's like a rape revenge film, right? It's been years since I've seen it, but I believe it's like a rape revenge thing, something like that. But
she was in a Luciano Visconti film too. I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah, she's got a very unique look to her.
I like that Forbidden Lady movie.
Oh yeah, it's a great movie. All right, so thoughts on Footprints on the Moon? Oh yeah, and also starring Klaus Kinski. I think we'd mentioned that prior in the intro and stuff like that. But Klaus plays a little role in this. Plays like this professor type thing, and he's poorly dubbed. Actually, the dub is fucking hilarious because it totally doesn't fit him at all. It's
jarring because I know what Klaus Kinski sounds like.
Oh, totally, 100%, man. It's so bizarre. So Footprints on the Moon. Thoughts on this one? Sauce, I'll start with you.
So, put my cards on the table. This is probably my favorite movie I've watched for this podcast period of first time watches. I adored this movie. I thought this movie was so good. This is top 10 favorite first time watches of the year for me.
This shit was boring, bro.
I thought this movie was so good. I thought it was so eerie.
No, I get that, JP.
Serious and atmospheric. I thought Florian DeBolt was the movie was incredible in this.
You know what's really funny about this movie though? Because she's got short hair throughout the film, but that's actually the wig that she's wearing.
That's what I figured. I kind of
in the
thought
scenes when she's got the long hair
on, I was like, that looks way too good. There's no way she's wearing,
because she's known for her hair and shit. It's funny because when the movie started, I was like, she's got short hair. I'm like, no, wait a minute. And then there's scenes where she actually has her hair, she's got long hair, and I'm like, because she's supposed to be wearing a wig. And I'm like, oh, that's funny that they did that because that's actually her real hair in reality. And then the wig she's wearing is the short one. That's kind of funny, but yeah, no, I get this. I was very interested to talk about this film because I kind of figured that JP was going to be snoring in this one, and you were probably going to love this one. I personally,
I fell asleep 4 fucking times, man.
I get it from the vantage point of, the reveal is everything in this, and it all makes fucking sense when you get the reveal in this. Without the reveal, you'd be like, what the fuck? What the hell?
The ending was so fucking good, though. I thought
it's a good reveal.
I thought it was so good.
It's a good reveal because it all makes fucking sense. It just ties everything perfectly in the end. And I like the journey there. The journey is great. The interactions she has with the little creepy ginger kid who's in a ton of movies too. What the fuck is that little kid's name?
I don't know if it was the same girl, but she kind of reminded me of the girl from The Beyond.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. I always think it's her too, but it's not. This girl was in, I believe she was in Don't Torture a Duckling too, wasn't she? Wasn't that little girl in Don't Torture a Duckling?
I think the little girl, the one with the duck doll.
Oh, no, she wasn't.
I think she had blonde hair.
Oh, she's from The Case of Scorpion's Tail and The Bloodstained Butterfly. She was in Murder Mansion. She was in Queens of Evil, The Weekend Murders, The Unholy Four.
That's a lot for a child.
Unholy Four. I've seen all these movies. Knife of Ice, which is Lindsay film.
She had to be some producer's kid that was just always on these movies.
And this is in a couple years. She was in all these movies just basically in a couple years. It's fucking crazy. She was in Syndicate Sadist, man, from 75. That's a cool movie. Oh, fuck. Totally. She was in The Psychic, Fulci's Psychic. She's the fucking creepy
These
little
are
kid
all
now.
a kid?
Yeah, fuck, man. I was 77, so I mean,
she had to be. Yeah, she had to be some producer's daughter.
The weird thing is, man, she was acting up until 1990, and then that was just it. It's so fucking strange, and then did nothing after. But yeah, she was in a ton of notable films that have good releases and shit. So, but yeah, anyways, yeah, her interactions with her in the film are really good and stuff like that. But I like the whole mystery. That's you're like, what the fuck is going on? The whole thing and stuff, and then.
I just feel there's so much downtime where nothing's happening.
But there's something happening.
I couldn't get into the I mean, by the end of it, the astronaut stuff is actually the most interesting aspect of the movie because it's creepy. But
it's a really interesting way of showcasing a mentality of using the astronaut scenes as a huge metaphor for almost being out to lunch kind of thing. Like you're out of your rocker, like you're on the moon kind of thing. And like, I think it's so daring. It's just so interesting. It's so confusing to people because if you're not looking at it as like a metaphor, you're like, what the fuck are these inserts doing here? Like, what are they're doing tests on her. They're doing this and that and shit. And like it's such an interesting journey because, and you're right though, like when those inserts come in, they're all black and white. And I love that they shot those in black and white too. Like they did on the moon and shit like that, because it's a huge metaphor for exactly what's going on with her. It's like, it's black and white, right? It's really interesting. I think this is a really well made film, very well acted. Like Balkan she kills this role. She's so good in this.
Women in this movie is in Giallo in general is they tend to be very sexualized and you almost like don't take them seriously a lot of the time. But like she's so confident in this movie, and by having with the short hair most of the time, you're just like not sexualizing her. At all. And it's like, it just like, it makes it her character like so more complex and so much more interesting.
You're right. Because you take her differently, right? Because if you see Balkan in other films, she's like very kind of unique looking and pretty in her own way, but she's known for her like beautiful hair and stuff like that. Like not, and taking that off the chart and using the short hair, it creates a totally different type of character.
She comes across as kind of like a tough bitch in this movie that like could like handle herself, and like she's doing all this investigating by herself, but like I never get that feeling where like she's in danger like because of like her inadequacies.
But I think it's totally part of her character because she's a translator, so she's always in charge, right? Like I like that. She's in charge of what she's doing translating, like she's got an important job and stuff like that, so she takes it upon herself to do this. But like in reality, wouldn't you be, kind of freaking out too? Like if you went to a small town and everyone knows you, but you don't know them and shit like that, like, and you lost 2 days and like,
it's so
like all these things are factors and you're just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why can't I remember these 2 days?
I like that. It just like, and like nothing it shows you is reliable. Like she shows you talking to people and you don't know if that just happened or if that happened on Tuesday.
Right.
Like there's so many layers and like puzzles it presents to you, and everything is like a red herring and everything is unreliable. And I love these scenes that might have like seemed boring, but I love the atmosphere of the beach, like her just like sitting there, like these like scenes just staring off into like these like dense woods. It creates it's like the movie's like saturating itself to me, and it helped like keep it something that I was like super invested in and like was like I felt was like tense.
Right. Again, with the, the seaside shore, small town kind of setting and thing.
I like that aspect. I mean, the film shot good too. Maybe if there was some more like, I don't know, like some kills or something. It's just, but it's so much dialogue.
But it's not that movie. It's totally a character study of someone in duress.
It's really not like a lot of like Italian.
But it is
movies.
though. That's the thing. Like there's such a huge mystery here because you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is that?
It's this theme that he's kind of repeated in all these movies. It's like it's a self-discovery odyssey.
Yeah, I like these character pieces, man. Where it's like
it just feels like you could see where it's going a mile away.
Really?
I felt like at the ending,
dude. I mean, she doesn't remember. Like the fact that she can't remember what happened, that she has time loss in 2 days, says something's wrong with her.
Well, they also throw the fact in the narrative in a little bit of the plot of it, and they say something on the lines of like she was taking some medication and stuff, and maybe possibly she took too much and zonked out. I was like, well, that's kind of hard to believe because no one's going to sleep for like fucking 48, 50 hours straight and just lose 2 fucking days kind of thing. But I like
not something I questioned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I like the fact that they didn't keep pushing that fact that like, oh, she's on medication and she's stressed out and she's overworked and blah blah blah. Like they mention it, but they don't keep going back to it, which is nice because it's there, it's in your mind. You're like, okay, that's a plot. It's plausible that it happened, but probably not. There's something else definitely going on with this character and stuff like that. But
like, obviously, it's presented in a different way. But I really am a fan of like that. Like I'm gonna say like the Serbian film thing where like somebody like finds something like finds out something and then needs to like discover what actually happened by retracing like their time loss.
Right.
And like I just felt like every like step she took, every like new person like that found out like that she knew, and like every little piece of information they gave you was just like another step that was just like more and more for me that I was like attaching myself with.
Yeah, and I like the fact that like when she was, you know, in the town and stuff, and like, oh no, your name was this, and you had long hair, like she was disguising herself and stuff, and then, but all that stuff starts, it all makes sense, you know, it comes full circle, and I just like the ride of this, man. But I do get it from your point, JP. Like, you know, if you're not invested in this film right away, you're probably not gonna get invested because it really doesn't pick up. It's the same very, very slow burn. But then again, I mean, The Possessed is a super, super slow burn too. Like the movie's very slow.
This almost felt like a remake of The Possessed to me.
It deals with a lot of the same type of things, right?
Like memory, apply the same concept, but I felt like he really like went more daring and like threw something out there that was a lot more like fantastical and like eerie.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. I'm not as impressed with you guys about with like. It just seems kind of simple, honestly.
I mean, this is the perfect example of a film that can totally just separate people. I kind of figured this was going to happen. Like I was putting in my predictions in my mind here, and I was like, I was pretty bang on. I was like, I think Tyler's going to like this one, and JP might be a little bit indifferent on it. I was like, shit, pretty bang on this, man.
After watching this one, I watched The Possessed, and I was like, I thought The Possessed was way better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all personal preference. I really like these type of films. Like I love slow burns as long as there's like a payoff that doesn't leave you questioning shit. And, you know, like this is the type of movie where if it was very, like almost like an abstract, what's the word I'm looking for? Not convoluted. I can't think of it. Anyways, but you know, like if the ending was just not straightforward, I think it would probably hurt it for me, you know. But I think what they did in this was appropriate and worked very, very well.
It startled me. I didn't think that was going to happen.
Mm-mm.
What?
I mean, there's always the possibility that you're thinking,
like when she went to the beach. Like I didn't think like that was a real thing.
Yeah,
like I was like startled. Honestly,
it is incredible. Like that he created such a great atmosphere in the daytime, because like most of this movie is shot in the light, but it has this like foreboding, like nightmare aspect to it, which is in the day, and it's very hard to capture that on film, right? Because, you know, with The Possessed being black and white, like that's almost a character in itself in that film, and it's a lot easier to capture that nightmare feel when you're shooting a film like that. But when you shoot it all in the daytime on a beach in like a nice area, like it's just a lot harder to capture. But there's just something about the construction of this, the way it flows, that it's just, it feels like super surreal. And I like that aspect, man. So, but again, I get it. I completely get it.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad movie or anything. I
will say too, is I think I'm really biased to like atmospheric self-discovery movies. There's a lot of movies like this, like that I like. Like it in the most basic ways, like it shares DNA with movies like Vertigo, like Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff is just like it's kind of in my wheelhouse. Is like
that's a movie.
Prime's like my favorite
that I need to rewatch. Is I watched Eyes Wide Shut when it came out in '99, and I have never seen it since, and I hated it. But I probably didn't appreciate it back then.
I've watched it twice, and like I've watched like the last 2 years, like consecutively, and I like it a lot.
Yeah, I bet you I'd probably like it now, just knowing what I know about film and it just appreciating what Kubrick had done, and like it's just for its oddity and stuff like that. I think it was
really like it's one weird. It's like it's another kind of thing about Kubrick is like Kubrick was like just so far ahead of his time that we like were just not ready for that movie in 1999, and now here we are, like, you know, almost 25 years later, and like maybe we're like, okay, maybe I see what this guy was going for now.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty true though. Pretty true.
Yeah, sure. I never seen that one.
I like it. It's interesting. It's got Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman in it. It's technically a Christmas movie.
Is it really?
it's not. Doesn't like say anything about Christmas, but like the setting, there's like Christmas lights all around town. like Christmas trees and houses, like shit like that. It's like it's Christmas season.
Right.
Dude, you like anytime you set your movie around Christmas, it instantly makes it better. It's ridiculous.
Well, actually, I mean,
just love Christmas in movies.
This might be like the most like dreadful like Christmas movie of all time. Like if you would put it in that camp.
Well, the fifth chord actually starts on what, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day kind of thing. So it's around.
Yeah, I did notice that. That was cool.
Yeah. Footprint. This is a really tough one to talk about because you're right. Like it's very heavy dialogued and
some might say nothing happens.
Well, I mean, there's something happening every scene. I mean, the plot moves forward. I mean, it is a lot of the same throughout the film because, she's talking to people and they're saying the same things like, yeah, I saw you on Tuesday. You can make this a drinking game, actually get shit-faced for every time someone said, I saw you on Tuesday. You take a shot. Holy fuck, man, you'd be annihilated.
Yeah, what's up with Tuesdays, man?
Yeah.
There's another common theme within these films, man. Tuesdays. Interesting. Weird. All right. I honestly don't really know what to say about Footprints.
I just want to highlight one thing too, like with the cinematography.
Yeah.
Like in that last act, like when she's like remembering like the like what happened like as a kid, and when it lines it up with like the same frame as she is an adult, that was like some of the. I think that shot was like just like elevated the movie so much for me. Just that like whole like the settings and just cinematography in this movie like just do so much for me. So like.
Oh, me too, man.
Just soak in the atmosphere. That's just like that's kind of part of the storytelling to me.
Yeah, like going back to The Possessed, like I think like the black and white cinematography is like a character in itself. Yeah. Right. So, Footprints, man. It's it shares a lot of DNA with The Possessed and stuff like that. Totally different type of film, but I think if you can slug your way through the heavy dialogue, and oddly enough, this is actually the longest of the three films. It's not like a long film. It's like 95, 96 minutes, but it's funny because they get longer as you go along. If you watch them in sequence, if you watch
you
Possessed,
can afford more film. Just a little more every time.
Yeah. JP's probably like, oh, fuck this one. This one could have been 70 minutes and I still would have been bored. But
it was pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, and I understand why people were like, "No, stay away from Footprints. It's fucking, it's so boring, it's useless, blah blah blah." And I'm like, whatever. I mean, people have different tastes and shit like that. I think it's really interesting, but I am gonna come in also at a 9 on this one, so I'm 9 across the board. Different type of film, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. It was good stuff. Saucedo.
This film was my favorite of the three. I really like this movie a lot on a personal level. Like I was saying earlier, I'm just really impressed with Bazzoni. I'm really impressed with his vision and his directorial style, and just like the kind of concepts he's interested in exploring, the way he plays with time and plays with reality, unreliable narration. I think it's really good and really consistent throughout his work, and more people should watch all these movies, even if maybe some of them, maybe even something like Footprints that might seem like divisive between us. It's like it's an interesting enough like thing, like within all his movies that I think you should really check out. But yeah, this one definitely my favorite of the three. I'm gonna give this one an 8.5.
JP 5.
No. Yeah, this one just didn't resonate with me. I was, when it first started, I was kind of interested where it was going, and then I like the small towny type thing. It always stuff like this always reminds me of like the Wicker Man and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Where they go to these like coastal towns and uncover a mystery type thing. But it just, I don't know. It just didn't do much for me. I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. You're a dick. but ratings.
Honestly, I was happy it was only 90 minutes, 95 minutes, and not like 2 hours. I would have killed myself.
Well, I'm here half the time. Like, yeah, I thought it was really good. 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's like when you give something to a kid and they're trying it for the first time. Like, do you like it? And they're like, yeah. Do you want some of it? No. Oh, fuck.
I liked it enough where I'm probably just going to buy that box set.
Oh man, it's definitely.
Well, I already own that box set.
Even for Identikit, man, like I know you'll love that movie. If you like this one that much, man, you'll definitely love Identikit.
Like, I would definitely.
Identikit was fucking good, man. It's so good. It's funny too because I haven't really heard many people talk about it, but yeah, it's definitely worth your time. So, but yeah, that is going to conclude Italian month week 1.
Week 1.
Yeah, so that was Luigi Bazzoni. Yeah, I mean, all 3 films get recommendation from at least 2 of us. So, but Footprints, I guess, watch at your own risk. I mean, it's definitely one of those movies that I can see not being for everybody. But then again, what movie is for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, but yeah, so next week we will be back with, who are we doing next week, by the way? I got to go look at
Eric Coley.
Oh yeah,
Coley. Actually, forbidden photos above the forbidden photos of a lady under suspicion.
Under suspicion.
That's why it sounded familiar to me.
Yeah, and then Death Walks on High Heels, and its companion piece, Death Walks at Midnight. So
I own all 3 of these movies.
I've seen all 3 of them.
They all have.
Yeah, I've seen all 3 of them too.
So they're all released by Arrow too. So out of the first 6 films, 5 of them have been released by Arrow. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Arrow Scoop. There was like a time period that was just scooping up all these from Arrow.
Yeah, they've re-released all these in those Giallo sets and stuff like that. They
released these Giallo sets like, oh, these are movies I already own.
I know, like someone actually asked me, like, do you have all those Giallo sets? I'm like, no, I don't need them because I have all the individual releases. I bought them when they came out. So, but yeah, anyways. So yeah, so that's going to conclude episode, what was it, 243? 243. Yes. All right. So yeah, I guess we're going to get the fuck out of here because the Bills game is starting in 1 minute. That was really good timing because I had no idea what time it was. Like I didn't even realize that it's literally starting in 1 minute. So we got to go watch that shit. So awesome. All right, man. We'll check you guys next week. Deuces.
Next week.